Today is the 4th of July, and the idea of freedom and a declaration of independence from a tyrannical government are, of course, being celebrated. Yet we have our illusions, our preconceived and entirely engineered notions of what freedom actually means today. Except the term freedom is not really up for debate. It's quite clear, in fact, the absence of necessity, coercion, or constraint in choice or action. Despite this very clear definition, how it is perceived has seriously changed over the years, which is by no means an accident. The Declaration of Independence set forth the ideal. All people have been endowed by nature and the Creator with certain inalienable rights. That is, rights that cannot be taken away or destroyed by anyone, including one's own government. In fact, as the Declaration points out, the purpose of government is to protect the exercise of these rights, not infringe upon, alter, or destroy them in any way, for any reason or justification. Now, most of the Founding Fathers did not before, and certainly did not after, truly embody and live these ideals, which is likely due in part to a lack of desire to do so, meaning some may not have truly believed what they signed. But it is also in part, and I would like to believe it's the larger part, due to the reality that the framers were simply striving to achieve a society that reflected the values in the Declaration. Not that they could just sign this piece of paper, snap their fingers, and the world would all of a sudden be just. We did then, and still do now, need to work toward the creation of this world, and then work to maintain it. Today, the idea of freedom is muddled, intentionally so, with the idea of safety, security, convenience. We have been conditioned to forget that this country was founded on the essential ideals of limited government and freedom of choice in every regard, which absolutely comes with a measure of danger. The world is not without its dangers, and no government presence, authoritarian or otherwise, can ever remove that danger from our lives. It can only replace it with one of its own creation, which is entirely the point. The ideas of limited government and freedom of choice should not be misunderstood, however, as the allowance of that which society deems unacceptable or worthy of repercussion or exile. But the point being that such choices were always meant to be societies, the individuals, and not that of an uncontrollable, unaccountable, technocratic oligarchy, which is what we see today. In a truly free society, that which the founders were arguably aiming to achieve, there will be flaws, faults, and mistakes. But those are ours to make, as a community, as individuals, and not to be overseen or entirely overcome by a faceless ruling entity that has no real understanding of what each specific community holds dear or ultimately values. If said community falls victim to corruption or manipulation, it is the right of the community themselves to remove those doing the manipulating, as is our inherent right, as outlined by the Declaration of Independence, and point of fact, even in regard to the federal government itself. To quote the Declaration, whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it. The simple realization that such a right has been removed from possibility should show us just how illusory our freedom truly is in this country. People have been convinced by a manipulative government that it is wrong of them to point out the faults of that government, when in fact it is our very duty to do so. I love this country, despite what the jingoistic sycophants out there might say. And everything I do today is in service to the United States, as well as the rest of the world. But you see, when I say the United States, many immediately think government, which would make the Founding Fathers cringe. They are two very different things, and many powerful people have worked very hard to make you forget that. I fight for the people of the United States and the people of the world, not the governments those people allow to be in power. So again, saying I love this country, as hopefully you can now see, is not the same as saying I love this government. Unquestioningly supporting the actions of your government is not patriotism. That is subservience. And saying so does not dishonor all the men and women who were deceived by the state, as many of them truly believed their actions to be in the service of good, even though more than you might think come home with quite a different perspective. Patriotism is being critical of your government with every decision they make, regardless of one's political affiliation. That was what this country was founded upon, and that which has been stolen from us with years of subtle and not so subtle conditioning. Our duty is to our fellow Americans, not the government officials who we are supposed to put in place. Yet that too has been stolen from us. To say it is un-American to question your government is to say that we are here to serve it and not the other way around. And I know without a doubt that is how they see us. But certainly that cannot be the way you see it, especially on a day that celebrates your supposed independence from tyranny. Yet this is what we are told, as today's uber Americans shout us down for questioning foreign wars, starvation campaigns, and coercively technocratic domestic policy alike. We must shake free from this statist mentality that turns us on ourselves. I am in no way advocating for any kind of violence. I'm in no way advocating for some hyped up civil war that only further divides the people. I do, however, seek a revolution, but one of a different kind. Not founded on violence, has ever had its roots in a just society. Many certainly tried with this country, but as I have pointed out many times, there were men in that very room as the Declaration of Independence was signed who had designs to create exactly the type of overreaching, all-controlling federal government that we see today. So I propose we seek to begin with something different, something enlightened, a true revolution of the mind. As I have said many times in the past, and I will say again, violence and danger will be ever present. That is inevitable. No government presence, authoritarian or otherwise, can ever remove that danger from our lives. It can only replace it with one of its own creation. But as Gandhi said, if we could change ourselves, the tendencies in the world would also change. And I truly believe that. So take that into the world today and change it.
It starts with a simple question and ends in objective reality. Through our journey from there to here, we find one another and ourselves. And as the next 24 hours breaks free from our last, we gaze onward in reflection of the day.
Come to your own conclusions. Stay vigilant.
Welcome to the Daily Wrap-Up.
Friday, July 3rd, 2026. Thank you for joining me today. It's nice to be back. Obviously, that was something that I've had a speech, or rather just something I wrote about. Honestly, it was kind of a mix between different holidays around 4th of July, Memorial Day, that I've been kind of, playing with or altering or adding to over the years. Last year, I believe I put that together as just kind of a standalone because I wanted to make a bigger statement about it. But I figured it's a good thing to play for just resetting where we are and understanding that there is an ongoing battle that's always there. And I think Americans are arguably, I mean, I shouldn't say it like, in a power sense, maybe not, but in a sense of momentum and awareness, I believe Americans are winning at this point, or just the people of the world who are fighting for something different. So that'll be good to start with that. Now, obviously, tomorrow is 4th of July. Technically, it's the day over to tomorrow is sort of the observance, but I wanted to put it out there today just in case, so it carries over to tomorrow. And I will include a link. Let me know if you guys are getting me clearly here. I'm getting some blinking on the video. I'm not sure why, but I'll include the link to that post on Substack, as well as I tweeted it out today, if you just want to share that video and just by itself. But lots to talk about today. Honestly, there's so much to catch up on. If you guys don't know, I had family in town. My nephew was here. It was such a pleasure to break away from stuff and really just, enjoy the family. And, as you guys know, it's always important for me to make that point when, and that's one of the longer breaks I've had for something like that. And I really just have to stress how important it is, especially on this kind of moment, and, this holiday, the July 4th idea, to find time to break away from stuff like this and find time to understand what we're really fighting for. Family, life, right? Not just politics, not just what we believe, the ideology. It's much, much bigger than that. But anyway, it was so nice to be able to do so. And there's so much that's happened just over the last so many days, some of which is a continuation of what we already talked about, but of many, many things that I'm going to ultimately get to probably over the week. But today is sort of a catch up to get to a lot of different things, but really framed under the like I started with, the idea of July 4th, liberty, the idea that we like to paint this country with, juxtaposed with the reality. And that's not to say, like the opening discusses, that it's somehow, against America or it's about the idea of the reality of where we are. And as somebody wrote in the chat, I forget the whole lot. I'll find it just to make sure I get the right word. Right, exactly. Dissent is the highest form of patriotism. And I absolutely agree with that. The idea, to paraphrase, not to look it up very quickly, Theodore Roosevelt said the same kind of idea, that it is servile and what's the other word he used? Basically just that to blindly trust the president or politics, just because your party is just the opposite of patriotism. It is servile is the word he used. And it just shows you that today we're being driven to blindly trust the team. Whereas, I think it's always been somewhat part of the conversation, but it's very clearly from the origins of what we pretend we're fighting for today, or rather they do, it's clear that it was set that that's the last thing we should do. Or, any number of things we could discuss, like standing armies or federal government, all the things that we pretend are, like today acting like it was founded as a Christian nation. Because you can look these things up for yourselves. That's not to say that there wasn't a clear influence there and a point to be made, but it was not in God we trust from the beginning. My point in saying is about how it's being manipulated by people who don't believe any of those things anyway. Not left, not right. It's about selling you on an idea, about keeping us fighting ourselves. That whole red ant, black ant jar analogy, which I'll point to again today. The idea of creating division, even amongst topics or around topics that are important, but doing so at a moment when it's meant to get us all riled up and pointing at each other instead of recognizing a moment where we've never had more momentum against the real, enemy might be too harsh a word in some people's minds, but the real problem. And whether you just want to make that about government, as I tend to do, because I do believe that, or just the current people in it that are obviously not on our side, who are obviously fighting for something other than American interests. And I'm not just talking about this current administration. We need to start being honest about this, or it's never truly going to change. And that's not just about the current administration or the last three administrations, or even just the current politics. It's about understanding that this will always be something we're fighting. Well, and you could make it about any other country if you think it's about one foreign element. It's always something that's the whole point of the opening, or the whole point of what this country was founded upon. It is never done. It is always about striving to reach something more. And if we act like we've reached it, like people did when Trump got elected, we did it, it's over. The first administration, we did it, we beat the bad guys. And the same thing they're trying to create with this one, and even more, I guess, now to the midterms. Just to keep you always on the edge of your seat as if the next thing is all we need, and then it just becomes the next one. In the meantime, the things you actually want get kicked to the side because you're focused on the person across the street. And this is just never stopping for us. But today, we are going to talk about quite a lot that relates to a lot. Every one of the things that we're going to talk about today is sort of under that umbrella. We're going to start with Israel and Gaza, because it is something that really needs to get the focus. And, as I kind of, in that video you saw in the opening, even though we're talking about July 4th and an American, about liberty in an American sense, it clearly relates to a lot more going on in the world, as our government is using our tax dollars and using our names to continue to commit genocide. And it matters because we're bigger than just one location today, as just the world, because of technology, because of where they're forcing us into. And what we're seeing is, we can't, let's put it this way, we can no longer veil our eyes to what's going on around us in our name, because it's not right at our doorstep. That's why, quite frankly, we're dealing with a lot that we are today. But I think most Americans are finally starting to see that. But we're going to talk about the reality of what are concentration camps being created for the Gazan people, for the Palestinians. Not a secret. They can gripe at the name all they want. It's quite literally the definition of what they're doing. And it's just so disgusting to see it come to fruition, to what we always knew it was going to be, what we told you they were fighting for from the beginning because they said they were doing that, and now for it to happen and just people to ignore it. It's hard. It's hard to accept that it can actually still be happening. We're going to talk about some overlap with 4th of July and the ongoing amendment to integrate the Israeli military. We're going to talk about some deflection from the White House and the current government about, I guess, just trying to yell jingoistic patriot, America's the best, is a post on Twitter. Okay, what does that mean for anybody right now? Does that save them from, it's as I've been saying, all flash, no substance. They're posting a lot of things, posting the, oh, say, can you see online, as if that makes them patriotic, or as if by pointing that out, they're somehow on your side again because we believe America. These are people trying to give you what they think you want to hear. It's Elon Musk MAG on stage. They're playing roles. And I know we can start to see that, especially for those that are aware that these people aren't fighting for American interests, largely on the Republican side. Now, on top of that, we're going to talk about the July 4th overlap and the absolute disconnect between what these people's lives are like and ours and what we're watching them display. It's become almost a pushback now from Trump's administration. That it's as if you're not, I'll get into it when we get there. People who are billionaires and millionaires are very wealthy people who are acting like it is your fault that you don't have what they have, not because they've created circumstances that allow them to benefit at your expense, but because you just don't try hard enough. It's an old concept that's coming back up. And the idea that somehow, even though it's mostly Republicans who are now calling out the issue, it seems it's turning his own base against him. And part of me thinks that's by design. It's hard to see. But we're going to get into the point of the corruption and the cryptocurrency fraud that we've been calling out since day one, that it's now suddenly becoming an open and obvious conversation. As usual, though, it would have been nice to catch them in the act before people were robbed. That's the point I keep making. As we were all jumping up and going, look at the fraud they're committing. Maybe we could have saved money from people being stolen. But at least now it's being discussed. I tend to worry, though, that it's about discussing it after the fact for a different agenda. But as always, listen to what we're talking about today. Maybe we can stop it before we get there. Like the artificial intelligence and face scans and Clearview AI being used to turn this into a technocratic hellscape in this country, which they're all pushing. It's very open. It's in your face. I'm going to get into the interesting overlap of the communism kind of surge in the conversation and this interesting overlap to the whole 78 degrees conversation, which is a small point, but just makes a very clear example of how these people don't believe anything. They're simply yelling narrative that they think will get us fighting and get you to think they're a certain way, as they're deleting posts that show you they think the same thing. And again, I believe most Americans are beginning to see what these people really are. We're going to talk about Iran to end, ultimately, update on that because it's still up in the air, a couple points on technocracy and the ongoing building of data centers and flock cameras and everything that's happening around us. The absolute opposite of liberty and what these posts from the White House are pretending they're doing for you. Land of the free, they're posting, right? Things like that. It's a slap in your face, guys. And I believe it's becoming undeniable to everybody, even outside of this country. Sort of like we can look at China and go, yeah, that's become very dangerous with their technocratic sort of control center they built around them. People see that here. It wasn't always as obvious. We'll talk about the Polymarket post from the Unlimited Hangout, Whitney Webb and Mark Goodwin, and how that's important to this larger conversation, and plenty of other things. I want to start with a quick point. Just in case you guys hadn't seen this, I pointed out a couple weird things that I see going on with BitChute, and ever since I was sort of forced out of the podcast with the person who's sort of backing that platform right now, because I was speaking about Zionism and globalism as a general concept that he got very angry about. Suddenly, I've been weirdly, continually, who knows, just a glitch, I guess. But these are over a week old. So I've got 2 videos about Israel and Greater Israel and the U.S. government changes that are now zeroed out and still live, technically. I just want to point that out. I find that odd. I hope it's a glitch. I've reached out already, but nobody seems to respond to my emails anymore, even though they used to pretty quickly. So I just see a very quick turn because of one person's opinion of me. I find that to be very dangerous for a platform that actually fights for free speech, especially since they're now censoring comments underneath that podcast. I've talked about it already. I just think that's alarming, especially when it's a platform that is doing what I believe is the right thing and is being driven in the wrong direction by people who are at the top. Age-old story, isn't it? So I'll include this post from last year. It's a time for a revolution, July 4th, 2024, and discuss it's written out as well on the Substack post, which I do think is relevant for today, guys. It's getting more and more so, as well as the post I put out today for just the video online, on Twitter anyway. Now, I wanted to read this real quickly. This was when we were out when my family was in town, and I just happened to come across a random book in it was like a thrift store. Quotations of John F. Kennedy. It was a whole book of just his quotes. I just randomly opened to the middle of the book, and it's trust me, if I flipped around and they weren't all like this. I just thought it was almost serendipitous. Here's what these 3 quotes have to say, and these are all again quotes from John F. Kennedy. Acting on your own by ourselves, acting on our own by ourselves, we cannot establish justice throughout the world. But joined with other free nations, we can assist the developing nations to throw off the yoke of poverty. Interesting mix of sort of the, whether you want to call that some kind of socialist perspective, whatever it is, an interesting mix though, isn't it? That we can't establish justice through the world by ourselves. Relevant to today, is it not? Here's another one. The United States is a peaceful nation, and where our strength and determination are clear, our words need merely to convey conviction, not belligerence. If we are strong, our strength will speak for itself. If we are weak, words will be of no help. Well, damn, if that's not relevant today. As Trump is spinning out every other moment, screaming threats that 90% of the time don't actually follow through, because that's what weak people do. They pound their chest and they yell about how strong they are, guys. Then again, that doesn't even mean that person is necessarily weak in a muscly sense, but they're a weak person that needs to scream about how powerful they are all the time, because that's insecurity. And I just thought that was wild. And there's the last one. What kind of peace do we seek? And this is interesting, talking about Pax Silica and Pax Americana, not a Pax Americana enforced on the world by American weapons of war, not the peace of the grave or the security of the slave. I am talking about genuine peace, the kind of peace that makes life on earth worth living, not merely peace for Americans, but peace for all men and women, not merely peace in our time, but peace for all time. 1963. Now, you could argue he didn't mean any of those things. Certainly is a possibility. I find it interesting this person was killed by a group that's now committing genocide and is objectively turning the world into everything he was fighting. Now, you could argue that that's not the reality of who he was. I wouldn't stand there and tell you I know for sure. But I find that hard to ignore with where we are today with all of that's going on. So interesting that I happened to just flip open to that one page. I just think that's crazy, but there's meaning to all these things. Guys, there's meaning to everything, in my opinion. Now, talking about Israel, and in fact, I'll include the interview we did with Corey. By the way, I forgot to mention this. I was actually surprised. It's funny how often I deal with this stuff these days that it's almost like, as important as this should be, I rarely even talk about this stuff. It happens all the time. Just last week, the site went down, as I recently talked about. After going through it, long story short, he told me that the IP addresses they could recognize were Russian hackers, but ultimately I don't believe that we're getting randomly attacked by Russian hackers, but who knows? But ultimately that they just bombarded the site, and it wasn't some random small thing. Like, this was a dedicated attack on our site, and it brought it down, and he was able to bring it back up. Now, don't take my word for it. Don't question everything, as always, but that's what he told me. And I don't know why he would mislead me. And the point is that he had to remove all this stuff they did to bring the site back up. Now, today, I thought we were dealing with something similar, and I still am not completely sold on it. But ultimately, the site went down today, and it was some weird thing that he had to fix on the server and there's multiple people on the server, and my site was the only one affected. But he said it was a thing that he had to fix, and went back up. Okay. Bottom line was, it keeps happening, and I find that interesting. But the time before last, other than today, because it was down for a couple hours today, I think, it was a deliberate attack on the website, which is not that unique. It happens to sites that aren't necessarily talking about contentious political conversation. But I think it's interesting and worth noting. So on that note, that's part of what's dealing with. This is something that's still ongoing on certain browsers, and he's still not sure why. So I guess we'll just have to tough it out and move forward. Hey, that should be the TLAV tagline, guys, because we're always being suppressed and manipulated and attacked, because I think a lot of people out there doing work that is important right now from a nonpartisan objective perspective is dangerous to a power trying to maintain control over a dwindling influence. In any case, I'll include the link because I can still tag the link. It is simply, I'll just do this because I have other pictures really quickly for you, and I'll just show it to you. But it's a great interview where we go over the main question, basically about JFK and was Israel behind the assassination. Here's just a picture really quickly. Not that I needed to, but why not? There you go. Corey Hughes' interview, was Israel behind the assassination of JFK? And in my opinion, he's one of the best, foremost kind of experts on the history around this. Check out his work. It'll speak for itself. On that note, speaking of Israel and what we're talking about, Dropsite News put this out on the 1st of July. Israeli plan to herd Palestinians into controlled shelters to begin within a matter of weeks. Israel's preparing to channel Palestinians into fenced humanitarian shelters in areas outside Hamas's control. Police, which by the way, obviously with the yellow line they put up that's encroached now to plus 70%, which already violates whatever pretend ceasefire they claim was still ongoing. Their fragile ceasefire, as they bomb every day and kill people and assassinate and rape and torture, it's a fragile ceasefire that's still ongoing. And of course, the point is that they've encroached, which violates it anyway, and they've continued to kill people regardless of what side they're on. There is the idea of Hamas being a focal point, it's irrelevant. They are going after anybody that they don't, for crying out loud, they've shot their own people in Gaza. I don't need to go over it all again. They executed 3 hostages that came out going, we're hostages, don't shoot us. 2 of them, 10 minutes after the first one? We've gone over this many times. The bottom line is, they're not just going, it's just about Hamas and safety. It's about the narrative to execute and to exterminate Palestinians. Exactly as they literally said more than once. And this is according to the pro-Netanyahu paper that was posted by Israeli media, which reported the plan approvingly, meaning that the media said, this is great. It's exactly what we want. Not secret in Israeli media, sort of like the U.S. media that completely panders to the state, left and right, which doesn't necessarily represent all of what people think in this country. Under the plan, unarmed civilians would be directed to a first zone in Tel al-Sultan near Rafah, an area drop site has documented Israeli systematically raising. Does that make sense, right? You want to destroy the area before you let them go there? This is about suffering, guys. This is a plan to eliminate this group. A multinational force, the ISF, operated under the Trump administration's Board of Peace, would deploy there from a newly built base equipped to police the zones, while the Israeli military continues to maintain and deepen its hold. Now, this is beyond the line, by the way. Who cares about the ceasefire, right? Guys, look at where we are with this. We're talking about them ethnically cleansing the people from the area to rebuild something else. Is the world just given up? This is illegal from day one. This is what they said would never happen because they admitted in the beginning that wouldn't be legal. Now they're just doing it. And nobody seems to care. And we care. But the people, the UN, the human rights, where is everybody? This shows you that even though there are people that care, the power structure, seemingly all of them, are sociopaths and Zionists and just do not care and will just shout you down for for trying to stop this from happening. I guess what I'm saying is there's no world in which you can look at this and argue that this is within the law. There is no conversation that allows this to be within the law. Hamas being present does not allow you to ethnically cleanse an entire state full of people. It's beyond the pale. And it shows you that the Trump administration, all of the U.S. government, the UK government, everyone involved are either compromised by whatever's driving this into reality or are absolutely willingly a part of it. It's hard for even me to wrap my mind around. Not that it's happening, but really that too, but ultimately that it continues to happen to this point with all the evidence we've seen. The camp and base for the force has already been built. And the Board of Peace, that they actually still call with Netanyahu on the board, by the way, has begun identifying sites for logistics warehouses with the groundwork underway. Let's not forget, by the way, I'm going to bring it up. Site's not coming up, but I'll include the article about this. It's already been built. And again, the Board of Peace, the idea that this is being put together by a group that's claiming to fight for peace, that's in real time breaking the law, in real time committing war crimes as the Board of Peace. You just can't even make that up in a stupider way. Here is the episode or the show, and you can also just see in general the idea of building this freedom city, which, by the way, is directly connected to the larger conversation. As Roger Stone's pointed out, as Trump has pointed out, the same backing, Pronomos Capital, all this stuff is tied into a lot of it. I mean, it's not a secret. It's not to say that everything is that it's all the same exact thing. But you can see the same people involved with building this, with building the seasteading idea, with building Prospero, and it's not a secret. Despite the weird pushback from people that want to pretend it's not happening, even though on paper you can prove that it is. This is the new step in the direction of how they're building the society. Donald Trump proposing a new WHO, the UN called a tangential security council. I don't know why it's not called out for what it is. The paper described the effort as a pincer movement, the military seizing more territory as the population is siphoned into the control zones. That's what they described it as. And yet we can't have an honest conversation about what they're doing to these people. Literally driving them like cattle into a location where they can be controlled in the hope that Hamas is left without a population, territory, or resources. Right, that's what their excuse is. And then what happens? Well, Hamas is in there now. We have to fight them in there too. Mark my words. Watch. I don't even need to say that. It's quite frankly self-evident that they're going to do that. They've done it everywhere else. They did it in Rafah, they did it in Khan Yunis, the safe zones, they bombed those too, in front of everybody. Officials said these areas would receive caravans and aid, but not the concrete needed to actually rebuild. The plan matches what drop site has previously exposed through leaked documents, a surveilled, checkpoint-controlled, planned community in Rafah designed to force Palestinians into what amounts to an Israeli panopticon, tracked and screened the condition of receiving aid, which they will then also not deliver when they decide to because Hamas or whatever next narrative comes along. It will be the same extension, the starvation, the rape, the torture, everything that's happened since. An Israeli political source told the newspaper the military would keep up the pace of targeting killings while remaining below the threshold of international criticism. Basically knowing they're trying to keep it just under what gets attention, meaning the papers know they're doing it, but if as long as it's not too much, they'll keep it secret. The buildup is already visible. The Board of Peace itself posted images of tactical vehicles arriving on June 30th. It just makes you sick, doesn't it? It should. James Lee simply said, when do we start calling this a Holocaust? Here's one of their look at this, guys. Israeli is preparing to begin moving Palestinians into, I agree. I mean, look, there's no even debating of this. This is exactly what the definition of a concentration camp is. Frankly, it's what they've already been in, these weird little tent cities they've forced them into and then bombed them there anyway. I mean, we know what's crazy is you can go back to the first week of this. Post-October 7th, they bombed the crossing when they tried to bring aid in. Remember that? They tried to deny it, but now we know because they did it afterward like 17 times. And then they bombed the people that were trying to go to the crossing. This were the day, and as they told them to go there, this was the first week of this. Everyone denied and they lied and people go, hey, they didn't do that. That was Hamas. Well, then you could watch them do it and admit to doing it way after that. That's my point. I don't even need to defend this. People know what's happening. The governments do too, but just don't care. It's as simple as that. It is a Holocaust. It is the most obvious, documented, live stream genocide that anyone has ever seen. Here, Met Press News points out is what's still going. June 30th, Israeli soldiers released their own photo, by the way, bragging about this, allegedly showing a Palestinian they kidnapped in Gaza. The genocide never ended. The daily death toll just dropped and media stopped caring. In case you want to uncomfortably take notice, you can clearly see that his leg is broken. The guy is literally just being tortured. And they post a picture, laugh about it, and still nothing happens. It will, guys, if we keep trying. If we keep pushing and we keep making something change, we can make something happen. The problem is that there's too many people who are afraid to challenge the system here because the system here is what's allowing this to happen. We've shown you this doctor many times, unfortunately. One of the hardest videos to even watch in this conversation. This is another video where he discusses seeing children buried alive. It's amazing. That's the worst possible word. It is astounding to me how many people on the record can tell you, doctors from all around the world, what's actually happening, and it still doesn't actually stop.
Him witnessing two children being pushed into the mass grave by Israeli soldiers with a bulldozer, and then their cries being muffled by the dirt that was poured upon them while they were being buried alive. And then when the bodies were excavated, the red and green shirts of these kids, whose hands were tied behind their backs, were found. that type of monstrousness, that level of heinous behavior can only happen if your hatred is formulated by design from your birth.
I mean, only so much one can ignore. Now, the reason that I'm even bringing this up outside of that it needs to be discussed and that we should not ignore how obvious this is and that our tax dollars are paying for it while we pretend, everything we tell ourselves today, it's also just because this is what is coming. If we can't see by now, I mean, it's an overused statement, whether it's we are all Palestinians or we are all whatever, in a previous example of previous tragedies. It's something that people tend to do, right? It's solidarity. But I don't disagree with the comment, with the statement, the idea that whether you want to make it about the genocide is coming to us next, or the idea that just is this kind of suppression that is genocide in this case, but this kind of just wholesale removal of your rights, society, everything is what is coming. It's not a secret. It's happening to us right now. The same group, the same Palantir surveillance system, the same tools used to surveil and track and monitor and control, the same exact tools are being used on us right now. And so the point is to understand that this is what is building if we don't stop it. And I'm talking about Gaza, guys. Israel Exposed put this out. It took a little longer than expected, but we have created a website for people to view the footage collected from Gaza in one place. I don't recommend you look at this with a light heart. Okay, this is something that you need to be ready to look at because this will give you nightmares. And it is well done. Israel Exposed deserves a lot of credit for putting this together. It is a database of the videos that we've all seen, but in one place, and probably more than you've ever want to look at in this. I mean, it's genocide. It is a live stream, documented genocide where they will happily stand next to their dead bodies and cheer. And the media doesn't want anybody to see it. Make sure you share this. Now, keeping that in mind, just the idea that's happening, that our government is doing that with your tax dollars while claiming to be spreading freedom around the world. I mean, first, you could argue that that's over there, but it's free here. Sure. That'd be very naive to think about, but ultimately it's possible. But so let's go through that reality here. But understand that if our government is capable of doing this to anybody, it is capable of doing this to anybody. So Ted Cruz comes out on 4th last year, or rather 2023, and says, Happy 4th of July. Today is the 47th anniversary of the daring Entebbe raid. I was only 5 at the time, but I remember being inspired by the amazing courage of the IDF who rescued hostages and killed terrorists, which, of course, you can get into the story for yourself if you want to understand the reality. And Glenn says, in 2023, U.S. Senator Ted Cruz of Texas went online on 4th of July to mention American holiday in passing in the most cursory way possible, then gets to the real purpose, heaping praise on Israel and the IDF, and urging everyone to spend July 4th reflecting on its greatness. I mean, this is 2023, guys. It's only gotten more ridiculous today. That's insane. Talk about tone deaf. No, I wouldn't even say tone deaf. There's a point to this. I'm going to take the day that's supposed to celebrate American, the founding of America and make it about another country. Weird, on the nose. So, oops, I think I did go back, actually. Yeah, I did get it. Okay, so here's another point on Ted Cruz where Murray Rothbard says, well, it's a meme first. I'll read that. So it's that cool, that's not what it's describing. But so Ted Cruz says, I represent the Lone Star State. And it says, Texas? Right? I mean, do you mean Texas? Is that what we're talking about? It's an interesting point. I mean, obviously, that's probably what he means when he says that. But the interesting point to be made is that these people are clearly not standing up for American interests. At the very least, when it comes to butts head with Israeli interests, but I think it's much more than that. This is not how a sitting U.S. senator should message on the 4th of July. Points to the same thing. Now, in case you haven't seen this, it's important to understand where this currently is. Section 219 of the National Defense Authorization Act, as well as the Senate intelligence version of, different, separate, but intelligence-wise, in the side of merging intelligence, it is the equivalent in a way. And by the way, as I've said many times, these are not new. Dang it. So frustrating for the podcast that my website just won't come up. But the point is, I'll include the link. It's about realizing this is further integrating, right? The idea is this is not new, and there's been plenty of other legislation that's already done some level of this. This just feels like maybe the final touch. But military.com. Israel defense provision blocked from House vote despite bipartisan push. So if you didn't know this already, it's very depressing to find out that despite the fact that it seems, whether feigned or not, that most people in Congress were willing to push back on this, guess what happened? Sorry, you're not allowed to vote on it. Because Thomas Massie and I think Ro Khanna had put forward an amendment that would strip this from the bill. They said, too bad, we're not going to let you vote on that. Hashtag freedom, right? July 4th, a bipartisan effort to remove a controversial U.S.-Israeli defense integration provision. Controversial is very generous. From the National Defense Authorization Act, never received a vote on the floor after the House Rules Committee declined to make the amendment eligible for debate. Let's not forget which side of the power structure controls all the houses right now. But again, you know my opinion. It's not unique to left and right, but it matters for those that still somehow think they're different, because right now it's clear to see that this side is not on your side. It's on the side of something else at the very least. The amendment introduced by Massie and Ro Khanna, would have removed Section 219 from the NDAA, formerly Section 224. The Rules Committee's list of amendments made in order did not include the bipartisan proposal, ensuring it would simply not receive a debate or a recorded vote before the House considered the broader defense bill. I mean, how is that even legal? I mean, nothing these people do illegal. There's no rhyme or reason anymore. It's like Trump and the Epstein file. They just do what they want. And then Congress never really does anything when they buck the system, because that's how it's supposed to work, right? If they ultimately ignore Supreme Court rulings, for example, they're supposed to be impeached. But they don't do that anymore, because secretly they're ultimately all fighting for the same thing, in my opinion, at least in practice. Whatever it is stopping them from doing their job, it still allows the system to go in that wrong direction. So however you want to look at it, that's the effect. And the reality is, they're just letting this go. They're just blatantly stepping in and going, you're not even allowed to vote on something that clearly every American wants to stop. But let's keep telling ourselves we have freedom, right? Or that this is represented in that way. Because truly, you all have inherent freedom. It's about the government stepping in and controlling your life regardless of that. And the truth is, we don't have what we think we have right now. That's not to say that it's never again, or the idea that we can't find the point is that our government is not in the mind of what we think we are right now. If they're willing to stand up and say you can't even vote on whether or not a foreign power integrates with our military, then we do not have what we think we have. The decision effectively prevented lawmakers from publicly voting on a proposal that had attracted support from across the political spectrum and generated significant grassroots opposition to the underlying provision. Quote, Congress has blocked the amendment that Massie and this is Ro Khanna speaking, and I introduced to stop the integration of our military with Israel's. Very simple. Excuse me. It is unconscionable to not even have a vote. Is that how democracy works? If that's even what we pretend we are anymore, we will be counting on and will not be intimidated by the pro-Israel lobby. We'll be continuing on. Excuse me. I have hiccups all of a sudden. Excuse me. So, quote, Section 219 of the NDAA is an unprecedented escalation of foreign involvement in our military, Massie says. I mean, these are just statements that need to shock people, guys. I mean, we know this already. You know this, you watch this show. But my God, if Section 219 is signed into law, it still has to pass the Senate, the American people should see it as Congress fully capitulating our nation's autonomy to foreign influence. Isn't that insane that we're having sitting members of Congress state that as fact? Gee, it's like you've heard this before. It's almost like many of us have been going, we think this is happening, and you're a racist, Ryan. You're a Nazi white supremacist. Somebody who I was very familiar with and appreciated during COVID yelled down my throat when I simply used the term occupied government. Who knows where he's at right now? I don't want to mention his name because frankly, I'm hoping that he's realizing that was wrong. But I remember there was a point where I was talking about, I think I just used the ZOG, Zionist occupied government, which, yes, is a thing that's been used manipulatively by people trying to make it about only Jewish people or whatever you want to talk about. It doesn't change what the words mean. And if we're literally becoming aware that this is a Zionist organization that is, occupying our government or influencing at the very least, it's not something that means I hate Jews all of a sudden or that I'm a Nazi white supremacist. It was just such a wild thing that happened. And this was somebody that I really valued during COVID-19, who I still think is a smart person, but just freaked out on me because I said the word. It just showed the same thing happened with the BitChute podcast, guys. There's people that have this wall. I mean, look, quite frankly, it happened more than once in our pirate stream conversations. We're right in the beginning of the genocide, trying to have a real conversation about these things. People just shut down and then never really want to talk about it ever again. And that's a weakness to me, guys. We need to be able to have these conversations. Pulling punches is a weakness. And so here, we need to be aware of what this is literally doing as people try to call you racist for acknowledging a foreign power trying to merge their military in any way whether entirely or even just influencing it, it has to be called what it is. Now, it says it creates a permanent framework for integrating portions of the American and Israeli defense industrial base through expanded cooperation in areas such as artificial intelligence, cyber capabilities, autonomous systems, biotechnology, data sharing, and also, which it left out, quantum computing, which, by the way, was a huge part of this. The biotechnology, basically, quantum had a part in every one of these. Interesting how that became a focal point recently. The Defense Intelligence Agency, which formerly was, well, I forget if she's gone yet now, but was Gabbard if she's about to leave or has already left, has recently identified Israeli intelligence collection efforts as a significant counterintelligence concern. I mean, how are those two things even simultaneously happening? Where the Pentagon can put the Israeli military on the highest level of concern. That's more than most of its adversaries right now. And yet at the same time, the White House can say we're merging with them and then shout down the Pentagon for saying that. It just, guys, there's a very real problem. Like that one point shows you that at the very least, there are people that want to fight back that Zionist influence, whether or not they even care about your rights. Maybe it's just because they see their power dwindling because that's what, who knows? But it shows you there is an element within our government that is aware of that. I mean, that's what I call the Charlie Kirk problem, guys. I think that's what changed what Charlie Kirk was doing. The awareness, finally, of Zionism versus Judaism and understanding what Zionism was doing. Not that there's not an obvious overlap, but the reality of the Zionist organization and what it is undeniably doing in the world, genocide, politics, in our government, and realizing that that is a very different thing than America First, despite that they wear the hat, right? I think that's where this is. And this is crazy. It says the Department of Intelligence Agency, Defense Intelligence Agency, has recently identified Israeli intelligence collection efforts as a significant counterintelligence concern in documents obtained through public reporting, describing them as, quote, the Pentagon, quote, as describing Israeli intelligence as unhinged. The Senate is considering its own version of the NDAA, and any differences between the House and Senate bills must ultimately be resolved in the conference committee before legislation reaches the desk. Now, here's the real trial here. If the Senate version is simple and this is rushed through, it'll be clear to me that they all, without question, want this to happen. But if this is pushed back and there's, goes back and forth for a really long time because they can't get it to say, that means there are parts of the government that seem to want to at least drag this out or stop it. That'd be my opinion anyway. Here we are, guys. Right? As we're supposed to celebrate our independence, our liberty. It's just, it's too much to swallow right now. And I think Americans aren't having any of it. And this is my point about this when it comes to, this was the article here. This is my point when it comes to, sorry, I just lost my train of thought. Sorry, the website thing for the podcast keeps throwing me off, frustrated that it won't come up. But anyway, the larger point of as we're discussing freedom and independence, the idea that we're watching this clear infiltration come to pass, it's just a little bit too much. And I think people are truly beginning to call this out. And that's what we're seeing sort of kind of break down in front of us right now. People like Marjorie Taylor Greene, whatever you think, I'm very skeptical, comes out and says on the 2nd, the GOP is a disaster. The Republican Party hijacked MAGA, and I don't trust her. I don't trust any politician, quite frankly, but I agree with the way she's framing that. Now, I kind of sense it's just opportunism. She recognizes the same thing I do. I believe there's a massive momentum of people who are actually MAGA, and you may still think they have disgusting opinions, but that group is different than the ones supporting Trump right now. There's an overlap, but the ones that are still blindly supporting Trump, acting like him doing the opposite of what he promised is somehow doing what he promised, that's a ridiculous team sport politics side. You have people out there who want all the things he promised that have never happened. I agree. I think the GOP, the power structure, the Zionist Republican Party clearly used that momentum. Same with Maha, guys, because they don't actually believe in those things. But Maha, the group rather, who wanted those things actually did. They still do. That's why you don't even hear about Maha anymore. So the Republican Party hijacked MAGA, pretended to be America First and Maha, and then sold us all out. Now, my point is the ones that are still over there yelling that they are real MAGA, you may still think they're disgusting because they're immigration opinions or disagree on what they want with certain parts of the country, but they ultimately still truly in their hearts want to make this country better as they see it. That still I just feel like that has to be always pointed out, guys, because right now we need to shatter the illusion of the partisan game. And I'm talking about from the way the media frames all of us. I mean, even right now, they still try to pigeonhole us in left and right, guys. That's the whole point. So if they're trying to put people like me on left and right, ask yourself about everybody else. That means that there's the point where them calling everybody Nazis or pedophile, it's about keeping you divided. Even if it may even be the reality for some of them, it's about understanding that there are more people in the society of America that are in line with you in a general sense than they've ever been with the people in Washington. Then Trump, she says, rubber stamped the entire con job while taking checks from literally everyone. She says America First needs to go 1776 on the neocon Epstein-controlled Republican Party, and Maha needs to burn the bridge to the effing ground. Now, I clearly get the sense this is going to be some kind of Tucker new party extension, which I don't support. We don't need a new party in the same broken system. That's got to be the dumbest and most naive argument, or dishonest. That's not what I'm saying. Who knows if that's what she's saying, but we're going to get into the Tucker point in a second. Who knows if he believes that'll do something or not? But as anyone with a brain who understands the system is pointing out, well, where's the money going to come from? It's going to be either come from the people who are already invested in their all the rich people who influence the game already, who will influence him, or he won't be able to even compete. And that's one argument, and I'm sure there's ways around that. But at the end of the day, you have a system that is designed to not be able to be changed. We've been talking about it for years. So you may think that the answer is to try to change it within that system. Hey, give it a shot if you want. I argue it's only going to create more problems. It's about trying to stop, recognize the system is broken, and find a different path. Not the same old path. Not getting back on the hamster wheel with a different shirt on, guys. It's a different path. We need to find the solution to the problem, right? Not just patch it up. Like, this is the bigger point. And I go in the idea of no government, but there's other directions we could take. It's for you to decide. But going to the same is not the answer. We'll come back to that. Now, talking about what the current administration, but our government, is doing, it's almost hard to put into words what this, it's not just feigning or tone deaf or pretending. There's just something weird about what they're doing with all this. Now, this is the White House on the 3rd. And it really just is, oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light? Just reads off. Like, I'm going to bet you right now you could catch them off guard, and not a single one of them anywhere would even remember the second line of this, let alone, or rather, be able to recite this. But yet they post this like it means they're super uber Americans, but what does that even mean? They might as well just post, I am whatever you think I am. Support me. Right? I mean, it's meaningless for them to post, because truly you can look at their actions. They're not fighting for this country first. This is about trying to manipulate the small. Like, somebody pointed out in the conversation, actually. Oh, I think it's right here. Trump regime propaganda isn't really aimed at you. It's aimed at your children. That's a good point, actually, when you think about it, because what this is about is trying to kind of reach the younger, impressionable, that they believe in the freedom and the jingoistic ideas they create in everybody. That somehow it's about the glory of the missiles and the flag and all this stuff. It's like, fine, you can think that way all you want, but that is meaningless. It's about the idea of your rights, about liberty, about freedom, about your self-determination. And that includes the decision to care about this or not, or believe the flag. That's the whole point. This just seems like about yelling out what they think you want to hear. Here's Hegseth posting, this is the weakest, LARPing. This is him posting some movie trailer they created to act like they're the best military in the world, which, look, there's some very skilled people in our military, and many of them believe they're doing what's right. Some of them, I would argue it's hard not to know that today, but as I've always said, it's important to realize that some of them go into this believing they're fighting for freedom, and even if somehow aren't able to know they're wrong, which I believe they're wrong, it is still something they're doing that takes courage if they believe they're fighting for good reason. Nonetheless, or all that aside, it's not the reality of the world today. Look, when's the last time the U.S. government, the U.S. military won a war? It's the same thing Israel's going through right now. It's all about this beefed up idea of what we really are. And it's not because we can't be that. It's because our government has been driven into the ground or has drove us into the ground for their own profit. And that includes the military, includes everything. Spending with no real outcome. But my point is, this is him creating some movie trailer to make it about how great the military is. All it is a bunch of deep voices and military in the trees and bombs going off. It's meaningless. As I said, you're as pathetic as this movie trailer you created.
Over 250 years, we've had many names. Leatherneck, Jarhead.
I mean, ask yourself why this is even what we praise.
the standard.
Because the military-industrial complex needs us to.
But there's
Because you realize what they're pointing at here, right? They're pointing at foreign, like this is not about defending the homeland, because that's not where this happens. Because if we're talking about that, it'd be a bunch of ICE people and National Guard and Marines fighting people in the streets and murdering them with no. The point is, in a real sense, we're talking about invasion, foreign adventurism. None of that was what this country was founded upon. It was about defense. And looking inward and making that's what the Trump team pretended they were going to do. Nope, we have to glorify the war machine, the Department of War, because it was built on going to war all the time for what? Money and resources and oil. Well, that's sure as hell what they would want you to think, and somehow that's what God wants: stealing and robbery.
one name bestowed by our enemies. It depicts an indomitable fighting spirit.
Well, of course, they look like Palestinians.
That we're ready at any time to go anywhere
That one did happen.
for anything our nation needs from us, with only one objective:
I mean,
to win.
to win. That's the only objective, to win. Is that what we believe? The only objective is no matter what to win, go in there and who cares what's right or wrong, just get it done. That's what they keep telling us. That's not the reality, guys. That's not what the majority of Americans will ask a general sense. It's the same thing if you ask them whether they want to go to war. They all say no, which is why Trump promised no war. But let's glorify war for people that said there'd be no more wars. You can't make this stupidity up.
Aim is a warning across time to anyone who stands against us, so they're not mistaken.
Except that you've lost the last however many wars, right? And that's not to diminish the people trying to do what they believe is right, if that's in the conversation. But you do what you have to do to win. It's like, well, okay, you just lost, man. You literally just lost a very public war. This is nonsense.
When they encounter
You're right. This always do. Oh yeah, lots of people. I guess we'll just pretend that it's all in the interest of good. Heroes to 250 years. Heroes to 250 years. Oh, sorry, it says here's. I was going to say, how does that even make sense? Here's to 250 years. I mean, you get what I'm saying. I don't need to overblow the point. I just think that's embarrassing. These people believe this. This is what it looks like to have the incompetent, sophomoric people believing they're in power. They never earned these positions. The guy came from Fox News, for crying out loud. So did other people in the administration. These people are not. Is this what a meritocracy looks like? I mean, everything has been challenged. Everything has been ignored. These people are just trying to yell out what they believe. It's about what they believe. Let me put it this way. It's like when you look at Jan Bongino acting out what he thinks. It's embarrassing because most Americans look at him. He's an infant. He's a child. And that's what they project that. They come out with their tough talk in their videos and we're strong and we win, but they're not doing any of those things. It's kind of sad, isn't it? But this is sort of an analogy for where they are, where they've driven the country, right? Not it has to represent all of us, but he comes out and says freedom and individualism are forever American. Okay. You mean aside from you literally stealing freedom from Americans, or as this person writes, the only person in this government who actually believed in individualism was run out of Congress by a lobbying group of a foreign nation? Now, whether you believe in Massey or not, guys, he's one of the only people that took stances in, I mean, it's not, look, you can't say individualism and then go after people who have opinions you disagree with. It's not, this is my whole point about the asterisk. And we'll get into the free speech conversation. We'll get into all of this. You don't get to say individualism and freedom of thought, except if you have a Palestinian flag, because you'd be a moron if you said that, or any other variation therein. See, this is the whole point. I'll wait to get there because I always enjoy the free speech conversation because it's important to draw that line, and I think it's becoming more important every day to be erring on the side of the reality of the inalienable rights, not if but asterisk if a pathogen. Everyone in COVID seemed to understand that point. Now they love to scream these things. Individualism, right? But you can't say that out loud. No, but that's anti-Semitic. Can't do that. It's feigning. He's pretending to be what he thinks you want to be. And nobody believes it anymore, not even his own team. He posts this, or rather the White House, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Same thing, just like, oh, say, can you see? They're phoning it in, guys. See, and so as everybody, and I mean like literally everybody underneath this post said, I fixed it for you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and put a Israeli flag. Some of them changed the word and said to Israel. You know, it's everyone is calling this out. And again, I shouldn't be as loose with my language. I just really think it's the vast majority, but it's not literally everybody. But I've never seen more, and I mean like Republicans, not just conservative, like people on the team who are now going, okay, I'm willing to lie all day for my team. This guy's not on my team anymore. Think about what a big change that is. And I'm seeing that. So as people see, you just state these things because you want us to believe you care. That's lazy and nobody believes it. Here he posts, this is since 1776, he posts, it's cool to love America. I mean, what does that even mean, guys? Like, again, same point. It's just become, it is nonsense. Well, cool to love America. Cool, you're cool. And as he clearly is actively fighting for another power or another country, you know, it's something that it insults all of us, I argue. Kash Patel comes out with this AI slop video and says, happy 250th birthday to the greatest country in the world. Now, the world has ever known, which, by the way, is not, I mean, you could get into the reality of the countries that have existed ever. Kind of a hard sell to argue that, but see, this is just this mindset. It doesn't matter about the facts. We're going to yell the thing that we want everyone to believe. The greatest of the United States is a testament. The greatness of the United States is a testament to the grit, determination, the spirit of the American people. And we're just getting started. As if, Kash Patel, you contain any determination, grit, or spirit of any kind, frankly. You're one of the most embarrassing people in this administration, and everyone seems to call that out. But yeah, here's the next 250. I mean, all this is a random video of them just hyping up like generalized ideas of the revolution. I mean, think about how embarrassing it is for them to point to the revolution. The idea of fighting for your freedom at the expense of your life against people who are trying to suppress that freedom while you are literally suppressing the freedom of Americans, while you are literally working with a foreign power to continue to, I mean, you can't, it's the metaphor, I guess, or the idea behind that is just too much to swallow, guys. These people are, I honestly think it's partly because, and this is like wildly over the top, doth protest too much. They're worried. I think they are genuinely worried about what we see. And we'll get into the corruption part right now. Kash Patel personally, I think, is really in the hot seat for the corruption because I doubt Donald Trump's going to get in trouble for it. But now Kash is getting mixed up in the corruption crypto scams because they're all profiteering monsters. And I bet you he goes to jail or he gets accountable, something like that. We'll get to it in a second. Just a quick point on the idea of how fake everything is in politics, left and right. Caroline Leavitt, what a privilege it is to be aboard the inaugural flight of the brand new Air Force One. Apparently the one that Trump's going to just keep when he leaves because that's totally not wildly and objectively corrupt. Many people pointed this out. Zoom in for yourself. The books they have on the back shelf literally say library and arts. They're fake, guys. They're fake. They don't have 3 books that say library or 3 of them. It is a fake stand-up background. Now, there's one or two things I think. It either means this isn't even on the plane, and this is just meant to be a photo op they did, and they're not even there, sort of like when they made that whole deal about finding the secondary recording room about Biden. It happens all the time, by the way. They all do it. They love to make a big deal about it when they point to the other side, but they all do the same thing because they are all the same thing. Or they're just fake. They're just on their plane. They got fake books because they want you to think they're smart. It makes you realize that they are a facade. Now, maybe that's because they're just so incompetent and this country is, rather the government is declining, or maybe because they're not even actually in control, as we have genuinely considered over the years. That right now we're talking about the stand-ups, the Hegseth, the Kash Patels, and they're not even the ones actually in charge. You could take it for what you will. At the end of the day, these people are fake, however you want to take that. Now, on the point of the overlap with 4th of July, right now what you're getting, you used to have this effort from politicians to sort of try desperately to pretend like they're just like you. Well, interestingly, as this gets more and more like technocratic, elitist, everything's like what we're seeing is this effort to pull like we're better than you. Like they take the mask off. That's what it is. We are your betters. And this is what we've been talking about for years. They're stepping back out of the shadows. The elitists, the oligarchs, the bloodline ruler, what's the way they view themselves. Even the whole technocratic sort of new prophet class of the technocratic age, they see themselves as gods. Those are all very different categories. My point is all of that. They are stepping back into this front stage. The Peter Thiels and Mark Andreessens and all these people are stepping out and taking positions of power. As we'll get to in a second, Mark Andreessen just took a position on the U.S. government. I mean, I don't know how we can't see what's happening right now. Talking about Detachment 201. My point, though, is that now, and this is just one of many examples I could show you, where these people in government are acting like, we don't care what you think. Get away from me. You're not even, how dare you? Like, how you peons don't get to ask me these questions. But, listen for yourself. As Anonymous, this account wrote, this is why people built guillotines. GOP Representative Troy Nels, when asked about 60% of Americans struggling with affordability, he says, affordability? What are you talking about? I'm going to get me a couple of lobster tails and get me some nice ribeyes and talk about his 4th of July. That's what he does. As Trump just said, he wants prices to go up for houses. He doesn't care what Americans are going through. When he talks about Iran, I care about nuclear weapons. How much can people ignore? I believe we're far past that point.
Real quick, how do House Republicans make the case that you're fighting for affordability when you go back to your districts?
Affordability? What are you talking about?
Affordability is the big...
I'm going to go there tomorrow. Over the 4th. I'm going to get me a couple big lobster tails. I'm going to get me some nice ribeyes. I'm going to sit in my backyard.
He's clearly, making a point. He's making fun of you guys.
I'm with my family, my neighbors, and we're going to be enjoying the 4th, celebrating 250 years, the birthday. We're going to be celebrating the greatest president in my lifetime, Donald J. Trump. Maybe watch some fireworks. Won't be up here. It's going to be too hot, right? And I'm in bed at 11 o'clock. I heard the fireworks ain't going off till 11 o'clock Eastern on the 4th of July. I probably have to sleep through that one. But listen, everybody understands you're going to see a little increase in energy prices because of Iran. I mean, come on, people aren't stupid. You realize that when you have a conflict with Iran. But I think in the end, this short-term increase in some of the costs.
The old narrative, the same old narrative, right? Just go around and repeat the talking points. Oh, you mean the war you said would never happen? You mean the thing you said would be over in 3 days, maybe 2 weeks? You mean the price you said was going to drop right away when you ended it, even though you said you've ended it 38 times? Right? This is my point. If you are either going, yep, whatever he says, I already agree, or you are like, that's crazy. Like, even if you support Trump and his agenda, you're going, well, that's not true. That's not what's happening. But this is what we're dealing with, guys. They're dividing it amongst people that will side with you no matter what, and people who are just not stupid. I think they're going to be uncomfortably surprised with how smart Americans are. That's my genuine opinion. I've felt that way for a long time, despite the general narrative. I mean, look to the World Cup point or whatever. But I just think it's, well, Ron, of course, that's going to change everything. Well, then what you're doing is saying our blunder has caused your prices to go up. So why wouldn't we be angry about that?
But listen, everybody understands you're going to see a little increase in energy prices because of Iran. I mean, come on, people aren't stupid. You realize that when you have.
So what that is meant to do is make you feel stupid if you care. Don't feel stupid. You should care. These people are trying to make that's how little they care about you and your actual concerns, as he's talking about lobsters and ribeye.
A conflict Iran, but I think in the end, this short-term increase in some of the costs of
it's a huge increase, and it's not short-term.
Of energy, gasoline and stuff.
The things they don't even think about or care about because they're extremely wealthy.
Is temporary.
Maybe.
But President Trump has made it very clear to these companies, don't be gouging, no price gouging.
Oh, got it. So now Trump is stepping in and demanding companies price the way he wants? There's a word for that. What is that again?
I mean, energy, what? Oil was at $69 the other day, 72 today.
No, it was about 75, and it's slightly up. Yeah, and it's way up from what it was before you started the illegal war. Yeah, so same old talking points, guys.
I mean, the prices got to come down. Don't take advantage of the American people. To me, it's almost criminal. So
it's criminal to take advantage of the American people. I mean, guys, I guarantee companies always do this. And I'm not defending. Companies will try to make a profit at your expense. That's what they do, at least the bad ones. And any company's trying to make money. The point is that they're in a position where, yeah, they may be taking advantage, but you guys don't really care about that. Just like you didn't care after 2008 when you gave the banks money and they just spent it on themselves, their own bonuses, and then nobody cared. It's the same old thing. That's not this administration, but it's the government. Same government. The point is clearly one second.
The prices got to come down. Don't take advantage of the American people.
Yeah, the point is clearly that we're talking about companies who are going to try to make a profit, right? But at the time when you're dealing with something that is completely up in the air, Trump every 30 seconds is changing his narrative. Now we're bombing them. Now we're having a deal. They agreed to everything, which we'll get to again. It's still up in the air as Trump lies about they just gave us everything like today. And they're saying that's not true. I'm not even making this up. It's the same story every day, even though it's a new one every day. It's a new claim in another cycle. It's just insane, guys. And how embarrassing it can get. I've never seen this before. The point, though, is we're talking about them creating a situation that is volatile. And then Trump goes, we're going to lower the prices because we made a deal. And then all of a sudden what happens is you have the companies go, well, why am I going to lower my prices when 30 seconds, when Iran is currently saying that's not even true? So you see, the point is that regardless of whether, the point is that if you're going to side with what Trump's always pretended he was, he shouldn't even have the right to step in and say those things. But of course, it's not communism and socialism when he does it, but it is when they even pretend they're doing it on the other side. The point is that all of them have the same tendencies, as Ron Paul's pointing out right now. They just lie about these things, guys. The government is the government, and they've always tried to use the wedge issues to keep you divided. They just want control of your life. So what we're talking about here is just him framing it as that manipulation. And so here, he wants you to believe it's because these companies are gouging you for prices, which it could be, but it's also because you've maintained a constant process that has allowed these prices to fluctuate, and they're not going to just do what Trump says and lose money so Trump can gain a few points for 30 seconds. That's where we are.
Don't be gouging, no price gouging. I mean, energy, what? Oil was at $69 the other day, 72 today. I mean, the price has got to come down. Don't take advantage of the American people. To me, it's almost criminal.
You think 60% of Americans?
So we got to do that. We have to do that. And I think that the overall goal and objective is to make sure Iran never has a nuclear weapon. So,
I mean, isn't it just exhausting that they're even still saying that? I mean, whether or not you even think that's what they try to do, whether or not you think that was even the reality, like we're past that conversation. Trump has already even admitted they can have a civilian nuclear program if you're actually paying attention. Here we are, just yelling the narrative. We can't have a nuke. Trump's even said that recently again. On top of it, it's just impossible. There's no way at this point you could look at what Trump is doing and think that it's just him. He's embarrassing himself by his own narrative. So he either knows he's being manipulated and can't do anything about it, or he's just choosing to lie to you for his own reasons. I don't see any other answer in there. Now, there's obviously variations within those 2 points, could any number of ways, but I don't see how it could be anything else, because he can see it. He can look back at his own statements and go, oh, it looks like we were wrong, or it looks like they lied, or whatever it is, or it looks like Israel lied to me. Who knows? And we'll get back to the Iran part in a minute.
I'm okay with the increase in fuel because you knew it was going to happen with oil. And
Oh, we knew that, did we? You mean the thing you said wouldn't happen? That you said was going to be 2 days and you swore wouldn't do that? And we somehow knew that it would happen anyway? I mean, this is how you get made. He's literally saying the thing he said wouldn't happen, we all knew was going to happen. So are you admitting that you lied to us in the beginning, or are you just pretending that was the truth so you don't look stupid now? Probably both.
The straight and everything, but it's a temporary issue.
You think the 60% of Americans who are living paycheck to paycheck can afford lobster tails and ribeyes and all of that?
Maybe not. Maybe the 60% of America don't work as hard as I do either. I mean,
Wow. Well, there you go, guys. You're just lazy. We're right back there. How fun is that? Now, and it's not just aimed at immigrants. Now it's aimed at you, America. All you Republicans angry with Trump. Oh, you're just lazy, said the GOP. You know, it's almost as if they're trying to lose support at this point. And maybe that's the whole point. The teeter-totter flips it right back around. The Democrats, well, we'll get to that in a minute, with the Democrats aiming for their massive digital ID platform for the next administration. Here is Donald Trump talking about your 401ks, either so far out of touch with the regular people, which I do think is actually part of this, or just trying to project what he wants you to think everybody's dealing with. I've said, look up the numbers. Do you realize how few Americans, how small the percentages of people who have 401ks? He aims at the oligarch and the elitists or the oligarchy and the elitists as if that's America. He may even believe that.
Have 401ks, which are many. Who has a 401k? 401k, yeah.
Barely, almost nobody says anything, by the way. And you can listen to it on high volume. It's down in the links.
Percentage of the audience.
And listen to what he says after it. Listen.
1Ks, which are many. Who has a 401k? 401k, yeah. Big percentage of the audience.
Big percentage of the audience? Okay, what do you take that for? He lied, obviously. Everyone watching the video knows that, and he knows you can see that, but you have to lie because he needs you to think. So that means he's conscious of the idea that most Americans aren't in this elitist bubble that he frames as what Americans need. When the stock market's going great, most Americans don't care. 401ks are up. Most Americans don't care. Right? The Dow is up. Most Americans don't care. And that's not because they wouldn't if they had the opportunity. They are not in a position to care about those things. They're worried about how they're going to feed their family. They're worried about how they're going to pay the rent tomorrow. How are your 401ks doing?
Everyone that has a 401k is setting records right now in your 401k.
Yeah, good for that 0.5% of people in the country. I mean, it's a small amount. It fluctuates, but it is not even remotely the majority, even for a large amount of Americans. Most people are not in a financial position to do those things. And, and many of them get them through jobs that wouldn't have it otherwise, and it's just clear that these people want you to think that we're prospering because they are. And they're doing it through corruption. Here, he says it again. Here's Owen Schroyer. Trump tells the media it's okay that he's made billions because everybody is. See what I mean? Like, part of him, I think, somehow thinks that everyone in his mind is the people around him and all the rich people that he's giving pardons to and, hiding their crimes and dumping money and giving crypto scams. As he says, have your billions come in. How about even your Doge check? Remember that lie? All the Doge check? Yeah, these guys lie after lie. And if you think Americans can't see this, I don't know what you're paying attention to.
But critics say you're profiting off the presidency.
Well, you know why I'm profiting? Because the stock market's going up. Everybody's profiting. If you have a 401k, how's your 401k done? It's about up 85%. Thank you, President Trump.
Yeah, the elitist billionaires can say, thanks, Trump, we've made a little more money on top of the money we already don't need. Average Americans aren't dealing with that.
Well, you know why I'm profiting? Because the stock market's going up.
Right. The stock market, most Americans aren't involved with, not in any real sense that truly affects their long-term wealth. And there's a large amount of people, guys, obviously, but we're talking about the larger percentage of people, and the wealth gap shows you that's not the reality. If the majority of people are below the whatever used to be the middle class that doesn't exist anymore, which is the case, 99%, then you don't have money to invest in the stock market. It's not that difficult to understand. And he wants you to believe that because the stock market's up, everyone's doing great. Again, it's just trying to placate you. But with this wealthy family and their wealthy cars behind you, and everyone's doing great. We're all making billions of dollars. No, we're really not. Sure as hell want you to think that, though, because they want you to think when they benefit, the country's doing well. That's how they sure look at it. Well, Trump made more than $1 billion from his cryptocurrencies. Many who invested weren't so lucky. Now that's even NBC News giving him a very gentle title for what was blatant corruption that is being called out everywhere, that we've been calling out since the beginning. Since his last administration, quite frankly, we called out Biden for the same stuff. Not exactly the same, but his own version of corruption. They're all corrupt. In my experience, look back as far as you want. New York Times, President Trump reaped at least $2.2 billion from his family's holdings last year. Now, you could look at the money over his first administration, and that's a fair point to make, that it was, I guess, if I remember correctly, it was lower than the average. But if you look at the amount he's made this time, we're talking billions of dollars. It's not even close. It's more than I've ever seen a president make in his administration. And you can check that for yourself. So as Glenn writes, Greenwald, the magnitude of Trump's personal corruption and the monetizing of the presidency by him and his family have no precedent in U.S. history. It takes a total peasant mentality or some weird cultish devotion to defend or excuse this, especially if you object to corrupt Biden transactions. He says, as I did, as we all should have if we were honest about it, it's on a completely different scale. And that's true. Trump set up a crypto company, World Liberty Financial, which, by the way, if you remember, we called out from the beginning. 4 days after his inauguration, he then had the UAE pour hundreds of millions into his pockets for 49% of it, then gave rewards to the UAE, Jared getting $2 billion from the Saudis, on and on and on. Now, look, this is complete corruption. There's no way around this. This is why we talk about the ethics pledges and all the stuff they didn't do. And we'll talk about that briefly in a second. But realize what we're talking about, guys. I mean, here's what I believe. I believe this is not going, no one's going to do anything about this because this is the system allowing this to continue, right? So the people who are on the Democrat side would love to go, Trump's a villain. He's a criminal. And they're right. And they'll sure as hell call it out and point to it. But guess what? No one will go to jail. So all that happens is they get to benefit from the same corruption because now it's normalized. Now we're just making money because the stock market's up, right? We're just profiting from our stocks we're selling. We're making major decisions for the country and then buying stock for that before we do it. But that's not corrupt, right? Watch as this becomes just the way our government operates as we decline into nothing, because that's what's happening. This is a dying empire. That's what happened. As Charlie Robinson pointed it out, it's like they're stealing the silverware from the White House. That's what this looks like to me. That's my opinion, though. We'll see. They should go to jail, but so too should everyone before them who's done the same thing. Got to start somewhere. Kalshi reports, just in, Trump's investment accounts reportedly made 300 plus stock purchases one day before the tariffs, before he paused the tariffs. Now, this is, I just grabbed the quick link to this has been reported widely. You can read into it for yourself. I mean, how do you not recognize how corrupt this is? And this is just really him. We've talked about his family. We've talked about the poly market example that we'll talk about with Whitney's amazing article around this with him, or her and Mark Goodwin, and the idea of how this is their new casino, gambling off things they already have inside information for. They're just extracting wealth at a degree I've never seen before. On top of that, just on an interesting note, guess what Trump's doing in Venezuela? Trump registers his own brand of household products in Venezuela. I mean, you can't even make up this kind of corruption, guys. I mean, this is, or I would just say shameless profiteering. But you realize he literally overthrew the government there. For them to force himself in and make money off of the thing he changed, that goes well beyond corruption in this country. That's multinational global corruption from a group. He's using your military power, your tax dollars, and your lives to make money. His most recent asset declaration indicated that Trump Home is registered with the Autonomous Intellectual Property Service of the Caribbean country. That's just shameless, shameless. People could have died. I mean, frankly, I believe they probably did with everything. They hide this stuff every time. The point is that let's say just even going in and getting Maduro, Americans risked their lives, guys, and did it so he could make Trump products in Venezuela, steal the oil, and put someone in power that he wants there. Is that called democracy? It's just shameless, guys. Absolutely shameless. Days after a disclosure revealed he's raked in billions from the presidency, Trump has the gall on NBC to boast, "I'm the only president that's ever given up my salary." Yeah, which is peanuts compared to your billions you're raking in. So all that is an illusion by acting like I gave up a couple $100,000 while I'm bringing in billions. Doesn't mean anything, guys. These people are corrupt. Blue Georgia reports, the amount of money you made in crypto, it was an outsized number. Do you even know, do you know about the crypto ventures? Trump says, I could know about it. There's nothing illegal. What do you think?
Disclosure this week, the amount of money that you and the family made in crypto, it was an outsized number. I was just asking, were you know about the crypto ventures? So that was just something.
By the way, I could know about it. I didn't.
Right.
I mean,
guys, he knows about it. You can literally prove that he was not aware. And so he's lying about it, which means you know that he recognizes a problem.
There's nothing illegal. There's nothing wrong with it. I could know.
There's a specific, I remember.
Nothing wrong with it. I could know. I think that's actually relevant. Watch what he says next.
Wrong with it. I could know.
There's a specific, I remember Title 18, Section 208 from Congress, you, the Vice President, and you do not have, you would have to recuse yourself.
I didn't even know that. I'm trying to tell you.
You would have to recuse.
Oh yeah, let's laugh. I didn't even know I was breaking the law. I didn't even know. Let's move on. That is impunity. He's laughing about the law he just told him that he's breaking. I didn't even know that. Well, apparently ignorance is no excuse for the law if you're a random person and, a peasant out in the street with the enforcement arm coming to tell you broke the law, whether you did or not. Ignorance is not excusable. Apparently for Trump it is. Watch as nothing happens. That's absolutely insane. But this is nothing new. Guys, this is just the norm today. And we have to change that. Trump, almost anything my kids do, he says, if they buy a truck, they have inside information. I mean, it's almost, there is a tactic to being that obvious. There really is. Who's to say whether it's just stupidity or stating it out loud as if that, what it does, people go, well, it can't be a problem if he's just saying it. It really can.
In a way for my kids, because every time my kids do, if they invest in a stock or if they go and do a bill, anything they do, because the presidency is so powerful, so big, everything, right. If they buy a cupcake company, well, the energy to make the cupcakes is, sort of like, how's my energy policy? So therefore you have a conflict.
What? Man, he just absolutely lost the thread on that. And that tells you something, right? He's trying to ramble his way around this, but guys, I think it's obvious in my opinion, but the way he's acting and his facial expression, he knows. He's very aware that people are onto this right now. That's my opinion.
Do a bill, anything they do, because the presidency is so powerful, so big, everything, right. If they buy a cupcake company, well, the energy to make the cupcakes is, you know, sort of like, how's my energy policy? So therefore you have a conflict. Almost anything they do, if they want to buy a truck, if they want to buy, you know, if they buy an energy efficient truck, they have inside information.
I mean, guys, there's no way around that. He literally starts by saying, because the presidency is so big, they have inside information. Guy, he just openly admitted a crime. He openly admitted to a crime. Watch as nothing happens. His children, as everybody can see, it's not even barely hidden. It's obvious. They're taking actions, investing in things based on his actions. It's happened countless times. And he just admitted to it. Should be enough, but it won't be, in my opinion, because the system is going to work for him. The system wants this to be the reality. Now, whether Trump ultimately gets, you know, double-crossed or not, this is where the system is going. Like, I just, my opinion is that Trump is not going to be held accountable, because I argue the system wants this level of corruption. But I guess we'll see. Because right there, guys, that should be enough right now. I'd argue that somebody out there is probably already starting something because of that. That's insane to me. But we'll find out.
It's pretty tough in that sense. I tell my kids.
Yeah, real tough that we have all this inside information and we're making billions of dollars on. It's so tough. You know, it's hard on us, guys. It's hard.
Stay away from as much as you can stay away from, but they also have a life. You know,
Oh, yeah. You know, they got to steal things and make billions. They have a life too. You know, how dare you? God, it's tone deaf, guys. Like, I don't think they even realize how completely disconnected they are from what other people's lives are like. Multiple examples of this. Here is on Fox News. Just Fox News openly discussing how MAGA is turning on Trump. Amazing how we were talking about that in January and February, isn't it? Still, you know, same old, same old. TLAV, I'm used to it by now. Here's what was going on that we were telling you months and months ago.
The question, Leslie, is what's legal and what's not, what looks good and what looks bad, and how that plays politically.
Politically, yes, but with voters, no. Because what do voters say? And we're seeing a lot of the MAGA base turning on the president with this, because they're saying, look, he really doesn't care about us. He's getting richer. I'm getting poorer. I thought, you know, we elected him because he was going to make life better for us and better for the American people, whether they're Democrat or Republican, whether they supported Donald Trump or not, is a more affordable life. And that's just not what's going to happen.
Well, look at that. Now, there's more to the clip, obviously, but the point is clearly this is them discussing that MAGA is turning on Trump. Real MAGA, not the people that, see, if they're turning on him, then they're, you know, clearly, when that, I mean, you got it. I already made the point. I mean, there's a group of people that will support him no matter what. They don't want to make this country great again. They want to support Trump no matter what he does. That's what they're doing. Just very clear. So Edward Dowd highlights this. And I mean, you remember we did a show on this, the very first dip. This is way after that, by the way. Trump meme coin down 99.99%. Says Trump says he didn't know about the crypto windfall. Defends 1.2 billion made in his office. Excuse me. I mean, one, right? Maybe they tried and it failed, you know, maybe, right? But you have to remember how this went, how it was hyped. And as we talked about, we'll get to the World Liberty Financial, there was a back behind the scenes changing of money that guaranteed they made tons and tons. And again, they made billions off of this. And almost everybody else lost everything. That is what a scam looks like. Here, as the Patriotic blog points out, Trump made over $1 billion on his crypto while his investors suffered a net loss of $2 billion. He destroys everything he touches. Just to see that there's multiple examples of this. This one is Trump official. Here is World Liberty Financial. Oh, excuse me. This one is Melania. If you invested $1 million in Melania on the day it launched, you today would have $8,000. Look at that drop, guys. And guess what? They made tons of money on it. Trump reports earning $635 million in royalties linked to meme coin. They have multiple, these are all what they call, you know, what is it again now? Anyway, just the point is they created things that were meaningless, that were worthless. They sold you on it because Trump's name was on it, and then they completely collapsed. And of course, there's even some of them that act like it's only bad because Democrats hate it or some stupid argument. Guys, it was so obviously going this direction. I mean, really, most of them fail like that. And so all they did was extract your wealth, sell out when they were high, and then you guys lost all the money. Now, on top of that, what we're highlighting, whether it's the tariffs discussion or you name it, guys, you go down the list, there are people, whether it's policy market or just actions within the administration, benefiting from inside information. And we're talking stocks, we're talking any number of things, deals with foreign companies, arms trades, it's all over. Merchants of death, as Lee Roach points out, well, you can track Nancy Pelosi's stocks on trade or on Twitter. Nancy Pelosi, stock trader, because she's corrupt, guys, because she's profited many times off her inside information. And we've called that out forever, as anybody who's not a blind partisan would, right? But once you start tracking Donald Trump's, well, that's a no-no, isn't it? Isn't it? Free speech platform. Yep. Donald Trump portfolio tracker has now been suspended by Twitter. Why? Because they're not a free speech platform. What I think is funny is I, of course, try to make a point. Are we still pretending this is a free speech platform? And all these people try to act like somehow, like, how did you not know that? How did you miss it? It's like, why don't people think people can read English? The point was, are we pretending? I don't think that. If the point was, are we pretending? Anyway, the bottom line is, guys, there are people that still try to act like this is platform fighting for your rights. I don't think anybody honest is doing that anymore. This is blatant cover up. This is a specific, targeted. You can't follow what we're doing that is corrupt, so we censor it. And we'll come back to the Nikita, whatever this guy's name is. Nikita Bear, as he comments underneath Whitney's post. There's something very strange going on here, guys. We'll come back to that. But here is Kash Patel. FBI director caught hiding six-figure crypto buy for 6 months. Kash Patel failed to disclose $100,000 to $250,000 in stock purchase on time after his team called a miscommunication. Under the Stock Act, senior officials must report trades above $1,000 within 45 days. The filing has drawn attention given Strategy's Bitcoin exposure and the FBI's role in crypto-related investigations. So it's an overlap, but it's however you want to call it. This is the stock crypto dynamic. So, as I said, is it worth bringing up that the administration's never signed ethics pledges, or are we still ignoring that? So again, does that mean that I'm ignoring it? You get the point. No. Are we pretending that's the case? So many people acted like this wasn't important. I mean, it's a small thing. It's not like it was bound by something, but it showed you that they had every intention to not follow the laws, the rules. And this one says there are a bunch of them at this HHS that did not do it either. The point being, left and right, the government, guys, they don't care. They're profiteering shamelessly. Now, I get the sense that someone like Kash Patel could be thrown to the bus to save Trump. And he should have known that. That's how this is going to work. But he probably will try to become a whistleblower, and it'll be worse for him. But the bottom line is, guys, this is a corrupt person. He is profiteering like all of them. He just isn't in a position to get away with it. That's what I believe. But this is undeniable. Left and right, this is what our government is. Trump openly talking about Intel, which was, Catherine Austin Fitts has called him out for this. But she's basically, anti-capitalist, it seems. When they came in, Intel, they had a problem. I said, I can solve your problem, but I want 10% of your company. Just imagine if that was Biden or anybody else. You know what the conversation would be. And it should be called out because what you're doing is, it's not even about communism or anything else. It's about the idea that you are profiteering off of your position at the expense. I mean, it is obvious, but here's the clip.
In Arizona in particular, the biggest company in the world is building. They're leaving Taiwan, meaning to build this. They're building their biggest plant, and I think we're going to have a big percentage of chips. Right now, we had virtually nothing. We didn't make chips anymore. And Intel came in, they had a problem. I said, I can solve your problem, but I want 10% of the company. They said, what? I said, I want 10% of the company. And he agreed to, and the stock has gone through. So I think we made
maybe it's because the president is invested in the company, and he has ability to make things positive happen for a company, which shouldn't be able to happen. I wonder why it goes up. I mean, he was just bragging about something he leaned into that suddenly went up in price. That's because you leaned into it. I mean, it's a no-brainer. They know what they're doing. I mean, it's almost as if he's trying to make it sound like somehow just Trump's name is what, I mean, almost it's not about whether you revere the name. It's about the idea that everyone can see that if Trump points to it, he's going to shamelessly, illegally make it go up. He will do what he can to make a profit for everybody, regardless of whether it's legal or just. And it's not a different from left and right. He's just shamelessly obvious about it. Either way, it doesn't matter whether you think this is okay. It's about the reality of the law. And as it stands, that's not supposed to be how this works. And on top of that, it's obvious that plenty of Republicans would scream foul if this was anybody on the Democrat side.
$70 billion in 8 months. Do I get credit for that? No. Somebody said, that's not very American. I said, no, I think it is very American, actually.
Why is that?
And I've done that with other deals.
Oh, cool. So no real answer, no real justification. It is American because I say. Well, if Biden said my thing that's socialist is American, you guys would say, no, you're a communist. No, you hate America. Doesn't matter that he says it's not. So Trump just gets to go, no, that's not the thing. And everyone just goes, okay. And I shouldn't say everyone, but people, blind followers.
I think they had a loan anyway from the CHIPS Act, and now it's better to have equity than a loan, you would think.
It worked out well from our standpoint.
Right, that's what I mean.
Yeah. From your standpoint, Americans do not benefit from that. Here's another example. And this is the Kobisi letter. OpenAI has proposed giving the Trump administration 5% stake in the company to clear political obstacles. How is that not just bribery? I mean, realistically, details include Sam Altman has argued that giving the public a financial stake in the company is the best way to share the upside of AI. Okay. So bottom line for me, if you're not calling this out, you're either blind or dishonest. It's not even about whether you want it to happen and you agree with it. It is fundamentally what's not supposed to happen. Just like we talk about, same point. If this was the other side, you guys would be calling it exactly that. And I'll include the interview with Catherine Austin Fitts that makes this very point. And the title, Reverse Robin Hood. Why has Trump become anti-capitalist? And she goes over many examples, NVIDIA and Intel, and it is everything that they're trying to call. The point is, as I've highlighted, as we'll get into in the next part of this, as Ron Paul has been calling out long before this, but recently made a big point about it, they all have socialist tendencies. It's just about using it for their political benefit. As they write here, the Kobisi letter, President Trump says Freedom Fuel Network is lowering gas prices at 25 gas stations in the Northeast on July 3rd, and others should follow. Can you imagine what they would call that if this was a Democrat president going, you need to lower your prices to meet what I think it should be? I don't even need to fill in the blank. That's insane. And the idea, again, was the same point that so you convince this one group to do it because, and of course, it's Freedom Fuel Network. What is that? Some new thing they're probably profiting from, I'm willing to bet. I bet you find out later that he made some deal that he's going to benefit from personally. Either way, whether that's the case or not, you convince the one group to do it, and then muscle everybody else or try to get them to meet that demand, whether or not it's even what isn't that supposed to be what the market decides? They're all hypocrites, guys. They don't believe what they pretend to believe. They just don't. They will say whatever they need to get what they need done. That's government for you. Now, on that very note, to make that very point, now this is technically not what we're going to get into is the whole thermometer communism thing. But just to make this point, which does carry into the larger point I'm making about what I think that whole conversation is, Nancy Mace comes out on the 2nd, just out of nowhere. Now, I actually really looked to see if there was some precursor. Is there some new thing happening? Did something happen in school? Is there some new piece of legislation? What made her do this? Right? And so here's what she says. Serious question. Why do liberal white women want men using the bathroom with underage girls? Explain it to me like I'm 5. I mean, where's that coming from? Now, like I said, I'll read my statement. That's not an unimportant conversation. And we fought very hard to expose the weirdness around all of that. But why in the world is she just lurching into the conversation right now with all that's going on to drive it back into, and what is it based on? What you mean? So now suddenly every liberal white woman suddenly wants men using, no. That's not even, there's plenty of liberal or Democrat people that didn't even agree with that whole thing. Secondarily, that you then just reduce it down to they just want men using little girls' bathrooms. No, some of them, yes, in some weird, creepy ways. Many of them just are blinded by their own politics. Many of them believe that it's about equality and they don't understand what you're doing to people. It's a whole thing. And we've called them all out for it. And there's also very nefarious, manipulative people that want to abuse children. The point is, why in the world is she jumping into that now? Well, I think you already know why, in my opinion. As this meme discusses, I said, this is what I think Nancy's intentions are with her oddly timed post. Not suggesting it's an unimportant topic, only that she is lurching into it to divide and distract, driving us back into wedge issues at a moment when Americans are finally seeing their true enemy. driving you into something that is divided aggressively down the middle and just throwing it out there and going, break out, explain to me why. And it's being done in a way that is very hyperbolic and very, two-sided. It's about the divide of the two sides. Not that there's multiple positions within all of it, right? And if you haven't heard this before, this is what I believe is happening. It says, did you know that if you put 100 black ants and 100 red ants in a jar, nothing will happen? But if you shake the jar, the ants start killing each other. The red ants consider the black ants their enemies, and the black ants consider the red ants their enemies. The true enemy is the one shaking the jar. The same thing happens in human society. So before we attack each other, we should think about who is shaking the jar, attributed to Kurt Vonnegut. Who knows if that's accurate? So, the idea is that she's over here going, why are they doing this? Explain to me like I'm 5, and they're throwing, let's see what happens. And so everyone yells about you Democrats and you Republicans and you all hate each other. Meanwhile, they're still murdering people over the seas. Meanwhile, they're still robbing you of your rights. Meanwhile, they're letting a foreign power take over our country. But yeah, they care about your rights in the bathroom. So on that note of thinking of the jar analogy, let's talk about this weird communism thermometer post. As I'm sure you've all seen, because it weirdly, everybody seems to have commented. Even Rand Paul comes out with a ridiculous comment. So Speaker Johnson says, we're no longer in a battle just between Republicans and Democrats. This is basically he's done this like every day for the last week. It's his never been a more important election in our lifetimes kind of analogy. He's already said that almost exactly. Now it's now a sharp contrast between people who love our country and its founding principles, which none of them actually believe in, and those who want to tear America down. We're ready for the fight. So here we are. Get ready, because those people hate this country. You mean the Democrats who are, in their minds, screaming about how they want to save the country from you? Explain to me how they hate the country when their argument is they're saving the country from you, even if they're wrong, you understand? You see, this is the childish mentality of the political game today. I'm not saying that they're on the right side of history. I'm not saying that even all of them actually believe in what they're saying. But there is, in my opinion, the majority of Americans, just like the MAGA side I'm talking about, that is calling Trump out, who are of the mind that what they're fighting for is the right thing, even if they're wrong, mind you. That's how that's supposed to work, isn't it? That we're supposed to have our own beliefs and fight for those things, not because you disagree, you're now the enemy. They're making you turn on your neighbor. That's supposed to be something you guys can discuss and go, well, I disagree. Let me try to convince you of this. And we can both walk away amicably and go, we disagree. But now it's, if you think that, you're trying to kill my family. They've turned us into the enemy. This is the whole point, guys. So here he is telling you that it's about everyone who loves it and everyone who hates it. You're either with us or you're against us. It's just, it never stops. I honestly don't even think this is even working that well anymore. But some people get all ramped up about fighting the evil libs and, dunking on the lib or whatever it is right now. Same thing with the Democrats against Republicans. It never seems to stop. Never been a more important election in our lifetimes. But so the whole thing is about creating this idea that the communists take over from the left, and that's what we have to fight. And that's what this comes down to. He says it in this clip. Jesse Waters. Red light, holy smokes, guys. I'm telling you guys, he is as ridiculous, if not more so, than all the people doing this he is that person. Red light, holy smokes. Caroline Leavitt says the full-blown communist revolution. Oh, great. So a press secretary gets up and says the thing that the team wants her to say, and that's supposed to be news? And she just goes, that's the thing. We agree. So does she have any standing? Is she some kind of expert on communism? Has she wrote a paper? Or does she go to school? No. She's just a press secretary who agreed with the Trump said with breaking news. I'm just so tired of these idiots. They're not negotiating. They're here to destroy. Maybe. And that would be government, regardless of what you think their ideology is. Or maybe those people just believe that communism might be a different change to your complete top-down control structure. I disagree. It'll be the same thing because that's what government does. But the idea that they can just create a different opinion into being the enemy is how this country will completely continue to collapse. The idea that we can't even have a disagreement about what we should do is why we are in such a bad way. And I think that's being done because we are being collapsed. That's my opinion, but whatever you think it is, recognize how completely ridiculous that is. Communism is the biggest threat in 250 years. Oh, so the biggest threat we've ever seen right now. Not the infiltration from the obvious genocidal power that is completely controlling our politicians. No. This random nebulous thing that Antifa, and these things, which, by the way, I will directly tie back to the same problem. Again, I don't need to overblow it. I think most Americans are already there. One Trump only, Trump and common sense. That's where we are. How embarrassing. Well, okay. So we get into the point about communism, the stress of how that's there. It's a weird thing to pivot to right now. As again, just to briefly, end with I'll point this at the end. Ron Paul in 2018 said, to be fair, Republicans believe in socialism too. The military empire is a socialist scheme. He's been talking about this forever. He's not wrong. It's just that people who are partisan don't like hearing that they're not what they pretend they are, right? I think that's changing. But here he is, July 2nd this year. Perhaps searching for a new distraction, President Trump has singled out communism as the biggest threat that we face in the U.S. Yet, where are the communists? Where's Lenin? Stalin? Could it be that there's a greater threat to our liberty than the way of life than communism? You can watch it for yourself. I hope you will. So, what happened is that all of this weird Mamdani tweet was going around. Where was that again? It's in here somewhere. It's right here. Where he says, New York, it's hot out there. And the power grid is working overtime to keep us cool. He says, set your AC to 78 degrees, turn off lights, electronics you're not using, and unplug what you can. I don't see any demand in there. I don't see any absolute no matter what, or you're going to be arrested, which it's the same regardless. I think that's relevant that they're framing it like he's like everyone now has to do this. Maybe it goes there. We should be worried about that. I don't think so. Mamdani is on your side. He's already shown himself to be a hypocrite, even when it comes to Israel, by the way. I don't support any of them. The point, though, is that he says something gets turned into some hyperbolic claim by one side that is already doing the same thing. And you'll see what I mean. Our city is doing its part too, maintaining the 78-degree rule in our buildings, dimming, blah, 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 blah. Basically just saying we need to do this to keep the system going. Okay. Well, you can do what you want. You can go out there and do what you want. You're paying for it. It's your choice. Now, in California, for example, in some places, they're actually not allowing you to do that. They shut things down. That's a problem. I don't care what you call it. I disagree with that. But let's be clear, that's also happening in places that aren't Democrat. But either way, the point is about the 78 degrees. Everybody lost their minds. I don't think this is organic, obviously. I think this was an opportunity to spin this into communism that was clearly put out into the talking points. And you know how you can always make those clips? Somebody should do that. Of the montage of every one of them posting the same thing. It happens like this every time. They're all, even Rand Paul said communism alive and well because he says turn your DC to 78. I mean, it's just embarrassing how stupid this is. So we'll come back to her ridiculousness too. But so here's what the U.S. Department of Energy comes out with. So Trump's administration, through their account on Department of Energy, which apparently everything's now social media, puts out a post with George Washington next to an air conditioner and says, come and take it. Okay, well, how embarrassing that you find out that as they did, or right before they posted this, they went through quickly and deleted all their posts from their website that said the same thing. You can't make up this stupidity, guys. And I have it right here on the Wayback Machine. This is the post from the Department of Energy. Literally, this one's from this one's from 2025. The point is, this post was recently there right before this whole thing with Mamdani. And it says, start with an indoor temperature between 75 to 78. It's literally the same conversation. You read this, it's exactly what Mamdani is saying. Now, I still don't agree with it. I agree with that you could do what you want. They can feel free to recommend whatever they want. So they delete their posts, as this person says. So after deleting the whole recommendation from your website, unserious administration. I mean, it's not only that they're deleting it and then pretending they don't actually have that opinion, but that they then delete it really quickly and then go out and act like they're fighting it. Like as they're like the underling fighting the power. Guys, you are the U.S. government. You have every position you can. You control every part of government. Come and take it. Who are you talking to? Who are you pointing to? Who are you saying is going to come? You are the ones who would take it. I mean, it's just you have to laugh at the inability of these people to recognize that they are the ones in these positions. Like they're just so sophomoric about everything that they do. So that point is important. But again, back to the original point, they had to delete what was there to be able to act like they weren't taking that stance. How stupid is that? And it gets way worse than that. Here is Ted Cruz, who got called out by Twitter. He says, in a first world country, you can turn on the AC. Well, Ted Cruz's own state has made the same request on numerous occasions, going back through his own administration there. Like that he's been there and his government has put out that it's the same thing. You can look through all of them. I mean, think about how dumb that is. And here's Nikki Haley, we were just showing you. She comes out and says, "Welcome to socialism," because he posts that. Here's Nikki Haley from 2015. "Please make a special effort to conserve energy by turning off your lighting and keeping it lower of 60. You see how, I mean, you just can't laugh at how dumb, you have to be able to laugh at how stupid this all is. You got to laugh at what shameless hypocrites almost all politicians are. And it's usually the ones who cloak themselves in righteousness, who are the most corrupt and dishonest. These people don't believe in anything but power and wielding it over you. I just really hope that this, the idea is not necessarily that they're just lying, but these people are shameless. They will say whatever they want you to say. So they act like we're fighting communism. Well, they'll believe in it if it benefits them tomorrow. And they'll call it something else. Back to Nancy Mace. Here she is. Will the AC be 78 degrees at Taylor Swift's wedding? Well, they can decide that, seeing as how he wasn't demanding they don't. He was simply saying, here's what we recommend. I'm not defending Mamdani. I think he's part of you. He is you. You guys are the same thing. But it's embarrassing to watch you guys, as you otherwise stand on the same stance in previous examples, act like somehow he's telling you you're not allowed to. It's like the whole paper straw thing all over again. Yeah, the paper straws came out. And frankly, it's probably a good thing because of how many straws are polluting the world. But last I checked, at least in most places, they weren't being forced on you. You can choose to ask for another one. The point is, if they were forcing you, then you could make a point about it. But it became this idea that, oh my God, the inconvenience of asking for a straw. It's like, okay, if someone's suddenly saying you're not allowed to, I would absolutely stand on that and say, no way, no. And I did. There was places that were saying like somehow, anyway, the point is, it comes down to this illusion about what it really is. Even though in the sense that, and I'm not suggesting that you care about the temperature because of the grid. The grid should be able to maintain you guys using it how you see fit. If it doesn't, well, that's a problem of the infrastructure that our government, left and right, have created. Anyway, the point is that these things become so partisan and so stupidly partisan that it's just impossible to take seriously. This is Libs of TikTok, of course, the most hypocritical person on this platform. Hey, New York Times, hey, NYC, rather. You know how Mamdani is trying to make being a landlord impossible, so it is reliant on city-run property. This is what he's going to do when that happens. AC at 70 degrees. Okay, maybe. He's corrupt. The game is people always pretend like you're on one side or the other. For those of us that know they're all corrupt, these things are meaningless. It's Libs of TikTok who's taking a one-sided shot instead of recognizing all of the government is there. They're half stupid, right? But this is the problem: is they refuse to acknowledge that, or their business, it's in their interest not to acknowledge it. But Jordan says, quick question, moron. Who was president in 2019? Well, in 2019, federal energy program suggests keeping thermostat set at 78. Oh, well, look at that. So if you wanted to pretend it was somehow Trump deleting it because we didn't catch it before Biden changeover, well, it was happening in his first administration too. His government said it. It's the same thing. It is the same thing. They always do, because it's about their interests, guys. It's about controlling your life. Now they want you to think the thing that they were doing a second ago is bad because the Democrat does it. Same point here. Anna Luna. Socialism works, though. I don't even know why that even makes sense in this conversation. I think all government is exactly the same thing in my mind. And if you can't recognize historically that's accurate, I don't know what you're listening to. The point is, I mean, it doesn't even matter. All the people in the conversation simply pointing out that it's a ridiculous thing to say to that. Why, if that is socialism, then so too is everything you're all doing in most cases, which is kind of the point. But this person says, oh, look, Trump's a commie because he said the same thing in 2019. A different post, by the way. U.S. Department of Energy recommends setting your thermostat to 78 degrees. How stupid this all is. Same thing. And then Ron Paul makes the clear reality that they're all the same thing. They all have socialist tendencies. They just choose to ignore it when it's in their interests. Now, before we get into the last two parts we're going to talk about today, what we just kind of went through is the absurdity of the current situation, right? And so what we've been expecting for quite a while, whether it's the America Party with Elon Musk or some new for a long time, I've been kind of on guard for the new party kind of step. The third party illusion, rather. And I mean, when was that? I've done multiple posts about this in the past, but I did like an entire article a while back about this. Like, is this the third party illusion? And and really, it's the same. We use the hashtag two party illusion, But it's like in the UK, it's the same dynamic. Multiple parties, but it's an illusion about, it's really just one power structure that whether they very clearly have different opinions. When it comes down to it, same thing here. They all support Israel. They all support, largely, the power structure supports Israel, supports war. And so at the end of the day, it's an illusion. It's a false dichotomy, right? It's false binary. Well, and that's still two, but in the sense here, we're talking about this illusion of separation of the government. It's all one thing, right? And so I've been on guard for them seeing that we're seeing through it, recognizing we're no longer buying the two-party illusion, and then trying to throw in a new party to mix it up, and it still ends up being the same thing. I already made the point that the GOP tried to do that. They tried to break off and be the Patriots and act like it was rhinos and Democrats, and then we're the Patriots. Like, it's the same thing. So now you got rhino Democrats and Patriots. It was a very lazy effort. And then, like, right now, I'm calling out that, like, frequently today are all the fake patriots acting like they stand up for freedom and the Constitution, and then we'll shout you down for saying that rights are inalienable. It's insane. But my point is, I'm worried about this being bad. And this is what Tucker Carlson came out and did. Tucker Carlson, I'm going to help build a third party. Now, who's to say whether this is his own new deviation within the Republican side? I mean, we'll see where this goes, or whether he becomes part of Elon Musk's America Party, or him and Massey, and who knows where this goes. Same old thing I keep saying. I'll read what I wrote. I know a lot of pushback on this comes from the concern that he's not genuine. I myself am very worried about that. But I believe Americans should be able to collectively agree by now that even if he has the best of intentions, even if Tucker suddenly sees it all, that another party in the same broken system that is designed to be broken, designed to maintain the status quo, only perpetuates the same broken system. I mean, I really think that's very obvious, because it's not about the party necessarily. It's about the system that maintains the illusion of it all, and all the different levers they have and all the different cheating mechanisms. We all see it. We call it out all day, it seems, only on one side or the other. But the truth is, guys, this hopefully will make some change if it's genuine, but I just don't see that happening. I believe it's designed to not happen. Well, I will hope for the best as always, and look for, the right things. I know not everybody sees the path that I think is the right path, as, getting no government, realizing there's a world in which we don't need controllers, people telling you how to live your lives. I think that's insane that we can't see the light in that, but I'll hope for the best. Now, I'll point quickly on the technocratic side of all this. We talked about the Attachment 201, right? Technocracy in uniform. And I'm still blown away by how little attention this gets. That we have Meta and OpenAI, Palantir, who have colonel positions. They are now colonels in the military. I mean, this is as Brad Miller told us. Like, there are civilian people in the military, right? You can be as like a Palantir engineer and become a military personnel, but in a white lab coat. That's not what happened here, guys. This is a real picture. These were people that were not military. They didn't go through boot camp. They didn't go through military training. They simply got fatigues and a colonel position in the military as Palantir, as Meta, which Brad told me, look, these aren't symbolic. They're now colonels in the military. They can literally command anybody underneath them, and that's one of the highest positions. That is technocracy, guys. That's what we're watching technocracy evolve in front of us. And so let's talk about the next step that I just saw. Hegseth appoints Mark Andreessen to the Defense Policy Board. This guy, one of the usual suspects right now. Technocracy is rolling out before our eyes, and far too many can't stop fighting over manufactured nonsense long enough to do anything about it. Defense Department of War establishes new Defense Policy Board. And there's many of them. Here's the actual link. It's right here. Oh, I pinned it down here. Mark Andreessen. It's just very concerning, guys, that we're watching people who are openly telling you that they're building some technocratic, the CEO-run country, the freedoms, and they're openly being given positions of power within the very government that we're telling you they're transforming. I just hope people can start to call this out. It's exhausting that it can be so obvious, and yet people continue not to acknowledge it. Well, I mean, again, it's possible that you all see it, and I'm not able to see that because of the system and the way it is and the controlled, internet dynamic. But I still argue that regardless of that, nothing seems to stop or change. And this is why we need more than just what this is, which is what I try to do every day in my life out in the world. But we need more, whether it's just more discussion, more shows, more podcasts, more protests, something. We need people to begin to put, and I'm not calling for violence. I never am. We just, it's as if we're watching them change and they just kind of wait and see and nobody does anything, and it just continues. Israel's genocide, everything that's happening in front of us. Now, on the data center flock camera point, we recently discussed this. You are a terrorist if you resist data centers, according to the U.S. government and Israel's infiltration of flock and AI surveillance. Talked about signal trace and SITE, S-I-T-E, all capital, with infiltrated Israeli intelligence unit 8200. Signal trace from Leonardo, the company, which is a thing that clicks over the top of flock cameras and turns them into devices that can absorb your text messages, phone calls, data on your phone, which I'm convinced is already happening. Packed to the hilt with Israeli intelligence. Even Flock itself has somebody directly from military intelligence on the team. Just don't know why that doesn't get called out faster. But talking about this quickly, some points on where we are. We recently talked a lot about this, but I believe on the Independence Day conversation, Americans are declaring war on flock mass surveillance. As the Trump team is telling you, the land of the free, as they posted as well. As they build their surveillance state around you, as they sell you out to a foreign government. Think about how insulting that is. Here is what Americans are doing.
Americans are now declaring war on flock safety cameras. There are videos coming out across the entire country showing people not only putting trash bags over them, but completely destroying them as well. Take a look. Here are just a couple of examples. We can see them using power tools to cut down the poles, take the cameras off the poles, throw them on the ground, and even blow them up in some cases. Look at that. Again, this is happening all across the United States. People are going out at night with their faces covered, of course, and using battery-powered angle grinders, saws, and paint to cut down or completely cover the surveillance poles. In Virginia, one guy faced dozens of felony charges after he sliced down 13 separate cameras. Similar events have been heavily reported by police across Michigan, Oregon, California, Connecticut, and Illinois, just to name a few. But here's what's crazy. New systems are currently being developed to pull Bluetooth identifiers from inside of moving cars, since they can pair a physical vehicle with the...
That is signal trace, guys. That is what we're talking about. Now, I'd imagine there's more than one company. I just get the sense that the one packed with Israeli intelligence is probably going to be the one that they end up using. I believe it's already happening.
Unique Bluetooth signal of the driver's phone, the surveillance has moved from tracking the machine to now tracking the exact human being inside of it. But people are fighting back. The DFlock project is a massive open source mapping website that allows people to locate exactly where all of these cameras are.
Yep. And as we've shown you before, this is something that we need to continue to call out. Now, look, understand, guys, and we're going to get into this more in a second about the, where was this here? I think right here in the free speech part of this, we're going to get to, I think it's right in here. Yeah, right here. Oh, where was that? Shoot, I better not have missed that somehow. Man. Sorry, I'm just really frustrated if I'm, I had a whole thing short. I'm getting, hold on one second, guys. Well, isn't that frustrating? Hold on. Let me play this next clip for you. I had a whole thing I wanted to make a point about on here, and I guess I forgot to bring it in. But it carries on from this and the same point, right? The idea of people pushing back. So that was him reading out what we were already seeing, and that people are beginning to see it, and Americans are standing up around the country. Here is an example of a 14-year-old girl standing up in Massachusetts at a public hearing and just saying, we don't want data center. And they try to arrest her. Time to wake up, ladies and gentlemen. This is what's happening in the land of the free. And of course, what the good thing is the people across the whole room stand up for her, which is what we need to start doing everywhere. Derek's talked about this for years. You know, do what you think is right. Come out, go, get up with your phone, film them, do whatever you think is right, guys. The point is that stop grabbing her and dragging her from the room because she's speaking at a public hearing is not what's supposed to happen. They just do not want people calling this stuff out.
Thank you so much. time, you're free to leave my eyes speak. But I am 14 years old. I just graduated from the Stockholm Middle School. I am the future. I urge you, the future needs not. I'm not hurting anyone. We just don't want data centers.
Hey, guys.
I'm gonna witness that. I don't care. I'm walking out.
We've been seeing this all over, right? I mean, the people being dragged out for standing up for these things, the people telling you that they've been caught, dragged into jails or in front of court for AI cameras that when they were in the wrong state. I mean, it's just over and over and over. It just shows you that if they're willing to do that, guys, I mean, there's directives to completely shut this down. Here's what I was going to talk about. I'm surprised. I guess I missed this somewhere in the setup today, but it's the same kind of idea that we're dealing with, guys, is that you are talking about free speech. Here is a U.S. Air Force Major, Jason Watson, arrested after calling for Trump's impeachment at the U.S. Capitol. Now, here's the point in all this. He's in uniform, yes. And what it says, impeach, convict, remove. So here's the point. It is technically illegal under unconstitutional laws that you're not allowed to protest in uniform. Now, I said, despite the unconstitutional government effort to prohibit military personnel from protesting in military uniform, I consider this a clear violation of his right to free speech. Shall not be infringed, which, yes, is in the Second Amendment. The point is, in a general idea, shall not be infringed as a sense of rights, or the idea of inalienable, which is just to pick the point, did not come with an asterisk. Any asterisk, right? That's the point. The idea is that as applies to all of our rights, we're talking about the idea that inalienable is not some conversation. And so look, I understand. This is what I make the point every single time. If you believe that that should apply, then argue you believe in limited speech. Even if it's a small point, fire in a theater, whatever it is, very limited, still limited. If you believe in any way, shape, or form that your speech should be, speech, not action, but speech, in any way is somehow, arrestable, then you don't believe in free speech, you believe in limited speech. And so I got into a whole conversation down here about, basically the simple point comes down to this, where it's like, well, look, that's the law. And I said, okay, let me ask you a basic question. Do you believe that the government passing an unconstitutional law supersedes the U.S. Constitution? Yes or no? It's a very simple question, of course, that the person refuses to answer. The obvious answer is yes for them. They just don't want to say it out loud because it confuses what they believe they say when they're talking to their Trump friend, whatever it is. The truth is that you can argue that that should be the law, that here's the conversation. Well, they joined the military, so they're giving up their right. Well, that's not how the idea that they can just pass a law, whether or not joined or not, that says that you remove your rights the moment that right there, that's illegal. That's unconstitutional, rather, based on the reality of inalienable. Seems pretty simple to me. And so you can argue that that's the reality. And it's not about me saying you're wrong. It's about being clear about the way you're framing it. You can say that we should believe in limited speech. Don't say you believe in free speech if you're arguing for that to happen. I think that's important. It's a much more nuanced point, though, right? Because, yes, he did join. The analogy comes up with working at a restaurant. You can't go in there on the job and protest, at McDonald's for veganism. Well, the point that I made was that, well, you certainly could go protest for veganism. You wouldn't be arrested, though, would you? You would simply be fired. And then you can carry on protesting for veganism. Of course, if you're talking about standing out front in the same way here. Because, of course, when you're in somebody else's property, well, things are different. See, it's very simple, guys. Isn't this the whole F around and find out thing they always throw in your face, right? That, yes, you're allowed to go up there, but the point would be that you could ultimately get fired. But being arrested, creating a law that says you're not allowed to do it because it's inconvenient for the power is not free speech. It's the same as saying we're going to pass a law that says you're not allowed to say these things in this, you can only stand in this free speech zone when you yell those things. Just because they make a law that says it does not mean it's constitutional. And Mayberry versus Madison, right? If it is repugnant to the Constitution, it is therefore null and void. Our government is so far beyond that. They just don't care. But I'm willing to bet you even people in this chat would disagree with arguing that he chose to join. And it's not an invalid point. It simply comes down to inalienable. If you believe fire in a theater because somebody may get hurt is somehow not allowed, well, then you believe in limited speech. I do not. I believe that you can stand up and yell that with the intention to hurt people, and you still are not legally accountable from the law's perspective. Somebody could sure as hell sue you, and you know what? They'd probably win, guys. But the idea that the law can then, because it comes down to the idea that your words are then somehow a crime. They are not. People are responsible for their own personal actions. As soon as we start drawing lines that get away from that very point, we're lost. Even though it has logic to it, even though you could have a jerk or a mean, or, a villainous person that chooses to try to make things happen so people get hurt, it still comes down to you being responsible for your choices and them saying what they have the right to say, to lie. And it also comes down to the overlap that what if they're just wrong? What if I stand up and go, oh my God, there's a fire. Oh, I was wrong. I thought I was just helping people and someone dies. Well, based on this reality, you're now in prison. It's like, it's insane. The only way to get away from government abusing that is to go back to square one. It just doesn't get any more simple than that, guys. Despite the unconstitutional government effort to prohibit military personnel from protesting, I believe this is a violation to his free speech. So now, on top, Trump is having this man arrested because he's protesting in front of I'd be willing to bet if this guy stood out there in this today saying, arrest Biden, they wouldn't care. I could be wrong, but I believe that's the reality right now. Back to the point, you've got people protesting data centers, flock cameras, and in this case, she luckily doesn't get arrested because people stood up for her, but it's happening all over the place. Jason Bassler puts out a great post, 8 ways to take down flock without Sawzall. Now, there's great videos going around showing you how not to do something that'll hurt these cameras, how to make sure that they stay up just the way they're supposed to be, and giving you good information out there. This is about alternative routes. You can read it for yourself. 8 different points. It goes through all of it with detail on other ways to get these out of your community. There's already been examples of people doing this in Oregon, in multiple locations where they've actually either got them forced out or their local community, amazingly, rather their local government, sided with them and publicly said, look, they lied to us. They even took out the line that says they're not allowed to sell your data. They just removed it from the contract that we had already signed. These are criminals, guys, criminals. Demand an audit. Find when the contract expires, demand the privacy impact assessment, going through the ways to make this work. Jason, you should be following. Reclaim the Net also adds to this. The House just passed the Kids Act. Isn't it funny how Elon Musk doesn't seem to be screaming about this one when he just couldn't stop screaming about the one in Europe and making it about very specific groups? Because he's also a hypocrite. He's also a very dishonest person. The point is, 267 to 117, they passed in the House. Protect the kids, which is not about the kids at all. It's about using children to go after you. Platforms would make everyone verify their age by handing over government IDs or getting their face scanned. It's in the Senate right now, which I argue it's going to pass. Unless we do something about it, as always. But if we wait until it happens and get the breaking news from the new media, it's far too late and it's already in your face. Now here is Rubio, sadly telling us what we already knew was happening a long time ago, but now telling you it's going to be used, for your safety, for your convenience, of course.
Beyond that, I would say that we are also looking at some technological changes, which we'll be more fully able to announce over the coming months, where it's going to be a lot easier to get a passport in terms of the dynamics of it. You'll actually be able to go online. You'll be able to do almost all of it entirely online. One of the questions we had was most of the devices that people are using, be it a laptop or a standing computer or what have you, where you would fill out this application, they have cameras on them. I know it's shocking, but they have cameras, they have videos that people use. You should be able to take that picture on that device as opposed to going somewhere. Now, the CVS people, of course, hate this, and the Walgreens and all those other places, but you'll be able to take your picture from that device and be able to have it in real time through our security system, verify the facial ID, and it just saves you a lot of...
See, just kind of casually mixed in there, right? Oh, so it's not just about a photograph. Got it. So it's about using that to scan your facial biometrics. But that's the secondary thing. Just ignore that. Don't man the mind behind the curtain.
You don't have to go down somewhere
mind the man behind the
now and get a headshot and have the little pictures that you have to cut and then submit it 3.
Oh yeah, what a terrible inconvenient. Well, I mean, it is technically, but the point is about using your inconvenience to justify something that just robs you of your humanity.
Passport pictures. You'll be able to do that. You'll be able to do it online entirely for the most part with all the right numbers. They'll be able to verify it for you, and you should be able to get it much sooner. So we're going to make it much more customer friendly. We're not ready to do that yet, but that's really
clearly they care about you and your customer satisfaction, as evidenced by all the times they've done things for that. No. Clearly, this is something that's in their benefit that they're framing as something that you get because we care. Clearly, because we care, right? It's all, we're going to spend all this money to put fluoride in your water because we just care about your teeth being white. That anybody ever bought that is beyond the base. It's insane to me. They'll let you die 100,000 ways over, but yes, they're going to care about your white teeth. First of all, it doesn't even actually make your teeth. Like, the reality is it largely ends up with dental fluorosis. I mean, we've talked about the idea that they're right now fighting to make sure fluoride stays in your water. That's the fake Maha movement, guys. Anyway, I digress. I said if only we could get beyond the partisanship, maybe we could actually stop this before it's in place. Every day, it is more and more clear that their agenda is exactly what we feared. Marco Rubio says the next few months, the U.S. government will use facial recognition to authenticate your photos for your passports. Here, Biometric.com discusses Clearview AI, which we've talked about many times over. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to cut a little bit short today. So what I'm thinking is we're going to wrap up these. I'm just going to go through this last segment and then just kind of go. We'll get into the next parts in the next show. Just have something I have to get to really quickly. Clearview AI FedRAMP bid could ease federal procurement of facial recognition. This is where we are. And it's all happening in real time with companies that are directly tied to Palantir, to Israel, and then Israel and Palantir and Israel and OpenAI. And, it's just weird how it's just a consecutive, consistent, we're all conspiracy theorists, though. Clearview AI has begun a federal cloud security review that, if completed, could make its facial recognition platform easier for U.S. government agencies to procure and deploy across law enforcement, national security, and other government operations. I guess it's just coincidence that Rubio it's like, we'll just make this convenient because we know how much you hate passport pictures. Totally just not about anything else, as simultaneously a Peter Thiel-backed company becomes the focal point for your facial recognition. Just happens to be random coincidence. We'll come back to this. As Whitney wrote, and this is in a thread she just put out in 2024 about Matt Gaetz and different discussions. We'll get into another point. Johnson, an alt-right personality, is reportedly the co-founder of Clearview AI, the one sitting here with Matt Gaetz. The Peter Thiel-backed venture that scraped Facebook and other sites for all your pictures to make one of the biggest facial recognition databases in the world. The company openly brags about IDing Trump supporters who were at January 6th for law enforcement to arrest. But Trump's using them right now to scan your ID in the country. Seems like a contradiction for conservatives. I guess we'll ignore that. Gates' wife in the picture above is the sister of Palmer Luckey, another Thiel protege who is building the Orwellian surveillance system, i.e. the virtual border wall, on the U.S.-Mexico border, as well as DOD's Project Maven and semi and fully autonomous AI weapons. With a Thiel-connected VP on Trump's own son, and Trump's own son now working for a Thiel-linked VC firm. It's all coincidence. The influence of Thiel, who built the company with the CIA that profiles Americans and decides if they might be domestic terrorists or not, on the new iteration of the Trump administration should be deeply scrutinized. It's absolutely insane. Now, on that note, before we jump back real quickly, President Trump's $46 billion smart wall is underway July 2nd. Well, yeah, smart wall equals control grid. Remember when we didn't know this, right? When people didn't, the average person didn't. Now it seems that the control grid has become somewhat mainstream. Well, let's go back and listen to what Trump was telling you his smart wall was all about.
Number 8, we will finally complete the biometric entry-exit visa tracking system.
Entry-exit. For you too.
Which we need desperately. For years, Congress has required biometric entry-exit visa tracking systems, but it has never been completed. The politicians are all talk, no action, never happens.
And he goes on to say, Hillary Clinton couldn't get it done, to trick people into thinking somehow that he's good, that he does it. You know, lazy reverse psychology. Well, here is an article from September 28, 2023, exposing the secretive company at the forefront of facial recognition technology. 2023. And it goes on. I mean, just showing you this is a long time coming, and it absolutely is I think I still got it in here somewhere. It's at the bottom, I think. Peter Thiel would later become their first investor in Clearview AI before it was even called Clearview AI, but it was called Smart Checker. But that is where the company started. It did start very much within conservative circles in politics. I find that matters. So we're talking about a company that is backed by, I mean, it's this incestuous circle, and it's all building in the same direction for their benefit, for their companies, for their control. It's not a secret. And, again, you have Rubio going, hey, passports and stuff. Well, don't worry. We'll scan your face. Just step right up for your convenience. This is an article from the Minnesota Star. There's an overlap. How ICE already knows who Minneapolis protesters are. See, this is already being used against you if you haven't already watched the show. If you had, you already know this. ICE is using 2 facial recognition programs. Again, this was in January of this year. In Minnesota, 2 facial recognition programs. By the way, entirely how they feel they have the right to take your biometrics. They don't, by the way, but ICE and the rest of Trump's administration doesn't seem to care about anything. They break the law every day. They said, including one made by the tech company Clearview AI, the same Palantir-backed Thiel company dynamic that is, you have these same people that are behind almost all of these large things we're dealing with. And Palantir is also directly engaged with the technology, the AI tech for the ongoing genocide. Another one called Mobile Fortify, which, by the way, we've talked about as well. The agency is also using cell phone and social media tools to monitor people's online activity. Like, that's totally legal. No, it's not. In fact, these aren't people who are criminals. These are Americans who they suspect and potentially hack your phones, which, by the way, was also the NSO, Pegasus, ICE overlap, which was Israel. All of this is on the record. And agents are tapping into a database built by the data analytics company Palantir. So not just Thiel back, but also Palantir itself involved with this, that's committing a genocide. On top of that, that combines government and commercial data to identify real-time locations for individuals they are pursuing. The current and former official said, who cares if you're actually a criminal or just somebody that said the wrong thing out loud? Now, quickly, Aaron Melnick just adds one point. I mean, we haven't talked about ICE in a while, but guess what? Just like every other one of these conversations, it has not diminished. And and I should make it clear, there are new examples of stuff just like this. I could have gone over 16 of them. I literally have 4 of them just off to the side right now of ICE agents getting caught in real time with video, lying, shooting somebody. I mean, it doesn't seem to slow down, guys. Just to show you of the 15 examples we've already gone over in the past, here's another example where last year ICE, Trump's administration and ICE said a man tried to murder a female ICE officer while she was trying to arrest him. They swore under oath that he grabbed her by the neck and choked her. He was even indicted for attempted murder. Can you even imagine what he's gone through during this process? In ICE, probably they did all kinds of stuff to him. This is not a secret what they're doing in these holding areas. Then he goes to prison or goes to the process. Geez, guess what? Problem is, it didn't actually happen. A video goes revealed that proved that he didn't do what they said and has now been released. Think about that, guys. Think about how insane that is. We're talking about, and this is one example where they're making stories up to put someone in prison who does not deserve to be in prison. Think about Khalil and Ozturk and all the examples we already see of people who simply said Israel is doing a genocide and they tried to put them in prison. We just don't need to. It's not hard to see what's happening. And here's Alex Karp, the other side of Palantir, making sure you know that he is fighting for Israel. And then he believes Israel's on the side of good. Imagine even saying that out loud right now.
You have been a proponent and great supporter of Israel over the years. Great supporter of Israel. And right now we have a ceasefire in the Middle East, which we hope holds. Having said that, there is a bit of space between where the U.S. is now and where Netanyahu is on what is happening here and whether they ultimately be protected.
Just really quickly, guys, the idea that this is, NBC, and they can just and I don't think they even know. They think the ceasefire is holding. You mean as they murder people? You mean as they just bombed Lebanon? Moron.
And I'm curious, given that and given also your relationship with the U.S. government and the work you do there, how you think about that disconnect.
This is like so many things. I am the most publicly supportive CEO of Israel, and that's true. I think
and realize they know what they're doing, guys. They're involved with the genocide. It's kind of easy to see why they would take that stance. Their tech is used for the genocide. This is not they tried to hide that. They tried to deny that. It's very clearly proven that Palantir tech is used for Hapsora, for Lavender, for the Israeli AI targeted genocide. So it's not a secret why they're supporting this, but just you'd think they might want, he's brazen about it. He's almost proud of it.
Israel is on the side of good. Now, in private, because I'm known there to be fair, I'm probably also the most effective critic of like, hey, I didn't agree with this,
right.
without going, and I would be very happy to be more in public about that, except for I think not all. There are many legitimate criticisms of Israel and every other country. Although I would say, do you want a country that can sometimes be difficult as your partner, or do you want partners that have no tech scene as a partner?
Oh, so it's about tech scene. Like that's important. That's what he thinks matters. Who cares about genocide? They have a tech scene. They're infiltrating governments around the world, and we can benefit from that. Kind of what he's saying right there.
And so, it's like in this world, having a fully adult, independent, aligned country that doesn't always agree with us is much better than what we somehow have in Europe. We do not want that. Yes. Okay. So, look, America and Israel will never be fully aligned, and that's totally okay.
If you asked him right now, what are your criticisms of Israel? He wouldn't say anything. It's already happened. People have asked him. He says that to make himself sound balanced. Go, okay, what are your criticisms? He'd probably say, well, they try a little too hard not to kill civilians or something stupid like that. My opinion, but these people have shown their true colors, guys. I mean, you can't hide from this stuff. I mean, this is by Israeli media. The AI machine directing Israel's bombing spree in Gaza. This is Palantir technology. This was the first one. A mass assassination factory. It was called The Gospel. It's called Hapsora. The translation is The Gospel. But yes, tell us about the religious-driven government over in Iran. Yes, that is the case. But how embarrassing for them to pretend like it's not exactly what Israel's doing. To a prophetic, alarming degree as well, while they pretend Iran is the one fighting for some end times prophecy. It's not true. It's not what they're saying. It's not what they believe. Israel's openly saying that. But as Hegseth tries to shuck that off onto Iran, it shows you that they know what they're doing, and it shows you they know that we see them. Now, in case you thought for 1 second this was only about one side, you haven't watched this show, apparently. Well, reclaim the net. Democrats have chosen the global digital ID agenda. What Trump is currently a major part of, by the way, as a keystone of their 2028 campaign. So great. So no matter which way you pretend you're voting in the one government you're involved with, you get the same thing. Shocker. Project 2029's kids over clicks. Oh, just like Trump's doing right now with the kids. Yeah, exactly. Plan, ban under 16, force age verification, gut 230. Okay, so exactly like okay. It's all sold as child protection. Yep. The reality is passports, face scans, government ID, wallets, just to post online. Well, look at that. It's almost like they're saying the same things. You guys, it's not hard to see this, guys. It's obvious. Now, they'll come out with their specific, they're communist, they're fascist, and all of their lazy arguments when all they're doing is the same thing, supporting Israel, going to war, and trying to control your life. On two last points on the tech side of this, then I do have to wrap this up. I just wanted to point this out. This is one of Trump's stupid things he shared that somebody else sent to him and he shared it. It's an AI video, which, by the way, is actually kind of funny because it's of course, the only point is that Trump derangement syndrome is exactly what they're demonstrating here. And also people that hate him are demonstrating. It's the same thing. You can call it different if you want. It exists in partisanship. People who blindly support and people who blindly hate. You're both equally stupid. The point in this case is not about any of that, but look at how good this deep fake is. Now, if you didn't know this was a deep fake, like if you were in some other part of the world, I argue most people wouldn't even know this was fake. And I just want you to think about what that means for where we are with the fake new media and what the government putting out their weird social media campaigns. Look at how good this deep fake is.
You or someone you know been diagnosed with TDS? The symptoms can be relentless. Fortunately, I'm Dr. Trump, and I have a treatment plan. Let's hear what some of my patients have to say.
I have been suffering for over a decade.
That is real right there. Now, the next one, I think it's, what's his name?
Man, I've been suffering.
Blanking on his name. Like, it looks a little bit off. Like, I noticed that I'm like, that looks off. But Rosie O'Donnell?
After listening to Dr. Trump, I can see some results.
Come on. I mean, guys, we have to realize, so, you know, under the guise of a joke, this is, we're way past that. I mean, I've been saying this for years. I guarantee you there are things already being passed off as real that are not. Or however you want to look at that. Just be on guard. Just everything online. I mean, we've said question everything our entire, more than ever. You got to start questioning everything you see, because that's just the way of the world, guys. John Leguizamo, thank you. I just had to point that out. I mean, how have we not had a major like scandal around deepfakes by now? That I worry that means something. I'll leave it there. Now, I'm going to play this last clip, and then I'm going to, 2 minutes, I got to wrap up, guys, unfortunately, but we'll get back to all this. I'll give you the quick update on Ron, and I'll give you the link to Whitney's thing, which we will go through in depth. I've actually reached out to them to have them on, to either Whitney or Mark to discuss this. It's a great article, and it goes into the whole casino of it all, and what it really is about. It's very, very dark. It's part of the larger thing we're all talking about, guys. This is the new kind of control structure. But I want to play True Stream Media's post that they shared from Honest Government Ad. I think they've always done amazing work, and a guy just as usual hit it right on the head. Palantir.
Hello, I'm from the government with an update on humanity's gentle slide back into feudalism. Brought to you by Brando. It's got electrolytes. And now please rise for our first trillionaire. Hail! Of course, when you wake up to the obscene inequality we've enabled, you'll want to fight back. That's why billionaires are building the tools to protect themselves. From you, tools like Palantir. Hi, I'm from Palantir, the military contractor and AI software company named after the all-powerful Seeing Stones Tolkien warned us not to leave in the hands of evil bastards. Thankfully, we are very wise and balanced, like our CEO, who can't stop talking about killing people, wants an AI arms race, and gets a boner talking about the West's superiority in applying organized violence. And our founder, who thinks Greta is the Antichrist, knows about the Antichrist, and no longer believes freedom and democracy are compatible. Hail! By freedom, of course, Pete means freedom for him and his broligarch mates to rule the world. And that's where Palantir comes in. Let's meet some of our valued clients. Hello, I'm from ICE. Kidnapping people off the street is hard work, but not with Palantir. Palantir makes it easy for us to link your tax file, social security, license, and plates into AI-driven hit lists. Sure, we mostly use it on migrants now, but Palantir will come in real handy when we need to round up their resistance. Thanks, Palantir. Hello, I'm from the government of Israel.
That's not a point that should be missed, guys. I mean, it's the same thing that people like us have always pointed out. When it comes down to it, the partisanship is meaningless, right? If you resist the government, if you recognize, right, that they're destructive to their own ends, and so we have the right to alter or abolish that. That's the whole point. That recognizing that people, that we are their enemy when they become our enemy, that is the idea, guys. And they will do everything they can to shut down people who are calling out what they're doing. That's what they're doing right now. I mean, even the idea of like militias themselves, that is enshrined in our founding documents. And yet now, if you're a militia, you're a terrorist. I mean, we're so far from what we are supposed to be. And even then, I believe it's not what we are supposed to be. I believe that was a stepping stone, even from the minds of some of the founding fathers, to where it could be. That's how I believe anyway. But even if not, that's what I believe. That this is a path towards less and less and less government, not more. Oh, shoot. Sorry, I just screwed up the timing on this.
KCEO is let's targeting
to round up their resistance. Thanks, Palantir. Hello, I'm from the government of Israel. Committing war crimes is hard work, but not with Palantir. AI-assisted targeting makes it simple to murder thousands of people, even if most of them are civilians, according to our own reports. Thanks for supporting our genocide, Palantir. Here at the British government, we heard Palantir's used for war crimes and said, hey, let's give them a contract with our NHS. Could someone abuse that data? No. It's not like Palantir's UK CEO is the grandson of a known fascist, Nazi-loving anti-Semite. Hail! Here at the Australian government, we have no fucking clue. So while others are ditching Palantir due to fears over data safety and its ties to El Duce, we've let Palantir into our defense department, banks, and even supermarkets. G'day, I'm from Coles. Price gouging you wasn't enough, so we hired Palantir to track and cut costs on our already underpaid serfs. I mean, staff.
How do we not see what that's just, it's everyday engagement. They're data mining, controlling, surveilling, and selling out to the highest bidder, who's not even in your country.
Sadly for us, people are realizing what fucking psychos we are here at Palantir. That's
Cussing, I forgot to say something, guys. I usually more on that. I apologize. More cussing to come, I think.
why France just ended our contract. British MPs want us out of the NHS, and GetUp is campaigning to kick us out of Coles, which is a good start. Except Palantir is just one head of the Hydra. The underlying problem are these billionaire shitcunts and the feudal dystopia they're building around us. So if you like democracy, now would be a great time to wake the fuck up and stop them while you still can. This has been a message from your local government franchise. Good luck. Authorized by the Department of Tech Bro Feudalism.
Now, there's a few things in there that I disagree with, right? Just small points not worth getting into, but the general sentiment, I agree, especially the last part. Like right now, we could effectively do something to at least change the path this is on, but so many people put their heads down. Now, for those in the chat who are new, I tend to try to avoid the cursing just because there are, you guys have no idea. Over the years, I've gotten so many letters from people who watch this with their family. Like, it's the news, right? They watch, that's how they look at this. They're right. You don't watch Fox and CNN today if you're aware of anything. And so I try to do this as a family-friendly show. Even though we get into some serious topics, I do my best to avoid that. But here is one of the shows one of the shows we did, Pronomos Capital and the rapid transition to a techno-feudal state. That's what they were talking about. That's what I believe. I agree. I think that's where we're going. So one thing I want to get into in the next show, this is a great article that Whitney recently put out. She wrote, we've been quiet recently because Mark Goodwin and I have been working to write the most comprehensive investigation into Polymarket's origins and ambitions to date. We found that Polymarket's official origin story, that Shane Copeland founded the company alone in 2020 and then built the company in his bathroom, is a lie. No surprise there. They've often called out the idea of like the Palmer Luckey, Bill Gates, all the, build in our garage kind of, they're usually a construct government created. Polymarket really started years earlier as another company called Token Bank that was deeply tied to Israeli interests. I'm shocked. Specifically, a crypto company founded by Benjamin Netanyahu's niece and nephew. Can we not see a common thread here, ladies and gentlemen? Copeland has actively tried to obfuscate the company from his story, and it's not the only thing either. And this is part one, that part two coming out. I will go into this more in depth. There's a lot to get into, and this article is very well done. Ian Malcolm simply points this out. I wanted to quickly show you this. This is the same guy that Steve wildly ratioed, by the way, when he tried to come out and defend flock cameras, and everybody called him out. Here he is commenting underneath Whitney's post. This is the guy that's a head of product at Twitter who says thinking this way is a form of mental illness, by the way. Now, you have to understand that that's a dangerous thing to say today, especially in the UK. Like you're saying, like, okay, so having an opinion that challenges the government perspective as mental illness, that's a real thing they've tried to do before. I forget the term for that. It's a oppositional confrontation disorder or some weird thing they created to say that if you just disagree with the government, you're like confrontational. It's not a joke. And so my point in turning her valid statements about the reality of what this is and verifying it with facts and source material is a mental illness, according to the leader. This guy might as well be in charge of Twitter at this point. And even the fact check says there is nothing false in what Whitney Webb wrote. Everything she said is true and has sources to back it up. This is insane. It's insane where we are. And Ian Malcolm 84 says, does it concern you that the head of product on Twitter discounts the analytical efforts of Whitney Webb and refers to a well-documented and well-supported critical thinking as a mental illness? People are waking up, guys. People aren't as stupid as they like to believe. Oh, hold on. I want to keep that up for the next part, the next segment. This is trillion points. Conflict of interest. Nikita pointing to the same thing as also highlighting what Gen X Girl posted. Tell us what you think you know about Polymarket. Like, why is a gambling platform so heavily pushed on Twitter users' timelines? It is since Trump took office and all changes disappeared, or charges, excuse me. Or is it because Grok is bidirectionally integrated with Polymarket? That's an interesting argument. Are you a user yourself, Nikita? Do you use your position to make trades on advanced knowledge? I guarantee it. Something tells me you do. That's my opinion. Instead of your actual job. I think they're all wildly profiteering. I think that's what the whole game is right now. Rampant lawlessness. As Janice Girl pointed out, the ex-thought police has spoken. Reporting on Polymarket's shadowy origins is deemed mental illness by Nikita. You should shut up and comply. Stand up, guys. You're on the right side. Now, lastly, quickly, Saeed Abbas Arghachi from Iran says the terms of the Islamabad Memorandum of Understanding are crystal clear and public for all to see. As I've reported to you myself, Donald Trump has committed to the U.S. to muzzling its pets in Tel Aviv. If they ignore their master, Iran will school them. This was posted on the 1st of July. Any threat against our people and leadership will receive immediate, powerful response. So, I mean, I think it's trying to intentionally kind of challenge, like the end of the day, Trump is trying to frame this like he's won still to this day. And what they're saying is Trump told us that he would stop Netanyahu. He didn't. In fact, it's come out from their media that he told Netanyahu he could bomb Lebanon. So Trump is just spinning out. He's giving he's giving everything to everybody, it seems, if that's to be taken at face value, which you should question. And it's just trying. I think what we're revealing is that Trump is not the deal maker he pretends he is. Not in a real sense, but that he's always had money and influence and power to wield, and that goes a long way. Now, look, I'm not going to say that he hasn't demonstrated some savviness when it comes to business in some cases. I just don't think many of these billionaires are as great as they think they are. They just have billions of dollars, which changes everything. Either way, the point was he's saying they're lying. Okay, here's an example from today. This is marine traffic. Kepler's verified data directly contradicts what Trump is claiming today, that oil flows through the strait have surpassed 10 million barrels. He's lying. No big, same as every other day. According to maritime tracking firm, there's 34, 48, and 38 vessels crossing over the past 3 days, respectively, far below the pre-war average of 125 to 140. So Trump is just straight up lying, or he's being lied to. Well, no big news there. That's every day since they started this war. Kepler estimates approximately 5 million barrels of oil are exiting the strait daily on average in June. That's half the U.S. officials' 10 million. Blah, blah, blah. It's the same, bottom line. Trump administration is clearly lying. No surprise there. Donald Trump to media yesterday. Iran has been completely defeated militarily. Not a joke, guys. He keeps doing this following months of heightened regional tensions. So they've been defeated, but they're still in control of the strait. Got it. They've been defeated, but their navy can somehow stop you, even though they don't have a navy. Got it. You can go down the list and make fun of him. It's embarrassing, guys. Here. And if you think he's being lied to, why does he keep taking the bait 38 times in a row? It doesn't make any sense. Donald Trump to the U.S. media. Iran has agreed to nearly all conditions on ongoing talks. Again, I'm not making this up. He just said this again. And guess what Iran is saying? Can you guess? That's not true. This is Israeli media. Trump hails denuking of Iran, claims Tehran has agreed to all U.S. demands. What's funny is all these platforms say this, but then if you just look to Iran, they're going, that's not what's happening. Now, again, as I've said every time we've been here, it's certainly possible that may change by tomorrow. Every time we've talked about it, the next day comes around and you can look back and go, oh, so he was lying. Got it. Who knows why? Here is J.D. Vance publicly saying they did this to restock their military on the Daily Wire. I mean, either they're that stupid or they must know people see this. Aragachi is on Twitter, so are the rest of them. They can easily see what they're saying. So is this a feigned threat? Are they not capable of doing this? And so they have to pretend? Who knows? It could just be incompetence. Bottom line is the point everyone's making. All he's doing is admitting that the ceasefire was just so they could regain their footing, which also shows you that they had lost it.
So I think what the president has told us to do is use this MOU to sort of refill the world's oil economy, to refill some stocks, and then to see where the hand is.
Stocks is in stockpile, like weapons. Okay, well, so then you're just biding time until you get more weapons again? At least that's how that will be taken. Right? I mean, but guys, the reality is they violated it from day one. There is no memorandum at this point, despite it's like pretending there's a fragile ceasefire in Lebanon, even though they've been bombing Lebanon every day for the last year. It's just stupid. It's absolutely stupid. There's no ceasefire in Gaza. There's no ceasefire in Lebanon. The memorandum is a signed declaration of what they may do, and they've never met it. They've violated it in 3 different ways, as far as I can tell, right to this very day. On top of that, in case you didn't already know this, Israeli fighter jets literally invaded Iranian airspace to kill the negotiators during their talks with J.D. Vance. Matthew Petty points this out. Here's the actual post. Iranians sought guarantees, this is from the April negotiations, from the United States through Pakistani and Qatari intermediaries, that Israel would not carry out covert operations targeting their delegation. Pakistani fighter jets escorted the Iranian airplanes carrying a delegation to more than 70 Iranians from the border of Iran to Islamabad and back again when the session was over. But on the way back to Tehran, an Israeli security threat emerged. Iran's security forces notified the plane carrying Ghalibaf back to Tehran that they had picked up intelligence that Israel planned to attack their plane, and 2 Israeli fighter jets had entered the airspace. So they ultimately quickly landed in a closer airport and then took the land route back. And apparently even then they were potentially being tracked. I mean, guys, it just shows you they have been trying to kill them at every step of the way. So they're faking to go. You think Iran doesn't know that? That's the point. They know it. They obviously do if it's written publicly. So the U.S. government and the Israeli government are, as best I can tell, completely lacking options right now. It scares me because of where that might go. But I mean, it's every single day they continue to show you that they don't hold the cards. That's pretty embarrassing. Now, Iran has announced a deal with Oman to manage the Strait of Hormuz. That's on the 3rd. Now, Oman has been sort of playing both ways here, but I think Iran's aware of that. And apparently they've now agreed to managing this, which is something that Trump has already allowed. And yet it's I don't know. We will not know where this goes until this fully ends because it's just been so stupid. Now here is Alex Karp saying Israel is the side of good, as we just heard. And here is Morandi saying America is the great Satan. I thought it was worth making a point really quickly. The idea here that remember, they'd love to say, look, this means they hate you, your freedom in America. It's not the point, guys. Morandi has been, in past examples, standing up for American rights. The reality here is what he's pointing to. When he says America, that means the government. That's what they're discussing. At least that's how I interpret that. You can argue otherwise, but if you look at his work, it's clear. So what we're talking about is people like Alex Karp, the oligarchy, the elitists, literally siding with a genocidal, maniacal government. And we're not supposed to say that that's whatever you mean. Use the term they use. You can call them evil. You can call them criminals. But just want to highlight for those that want to pretend that that means you. It does not. It means people like him. It means the government, the power structure that are supporting a genocide. That's what that means. And of course, in case you missed this, the Venezuelan outcome, Israeli army. The Israeli army was now deployed to Venezuela. So in case you missed the common thread here, Israel is now able to land and put boots in the ground and influence on the ground, whether it's resource development, oil, lithium. Israel is now on the ground, which I argue will ultimately mean they dictate what happens in Venezuela, just like Syria, just like anywhere else they get involved, including, go down the list. The point here is that now we have obvious examples of Venezuela being influenced by Israel after the U.S. government uses U.S. resources to remove the power structure. So, as usual, the U.S. government doing things for Israel at the expense of Americans. That should be tattooed on their forehead. It never stops. This is posted by the IDF. So, we'll leave it there. More I want to get into, but unfortunately I had to cut this short, guys, so I apologize for that today. But I think it's a good place to leave it in general, and we have plenty more to talk about. I'm looking forward to getting to more today. Tomorrow, we'll see what happens with the 4th of July. I probably might play a couple more things today, or in regard to just the stuff we discussed today, but looking forward to the next one, and time to get back at it, guys. Please help us share the work. Help us get the information out, because, guys, I know you see it. I know everybody seems to see it, whether they admit it or not. You know, the majority, I think, is clear. So please get the word out, share the information. I love you all. As always, question everything. Come to your own conclusions. Stay vigilant.